Gather round, freaks. It's me again, and I'm here to tell everybody that it's time to gather around the internet radio and the internet fire. Andy, oh Andy, it's not good. It's bad.
Mine's
hey,
good.
Chucky,
I can do it.
Chucky, can you tell us about what time of the week it is?
It's Thursday night, and Andy's locked in a closet because I put him in there. And we're going to sit around the internet radio fire and talk about a movie on this week's episode of Hey, did you see this one?
The night is dark, and the air is still. The moon casts an eerie glow over the internet, where a group of curious individuals have gathered to discuss their shared fascination for the macabre. They hold in their hands a book with a foreboding presence, bound in flesh and inked in blood. A tome of horror that only opens its pages when a sacrifice is made. Within its ancient passages lie the secrets of the most infamous murderers and monsters of all time. Join us. But beware, for once this book is open, there's no telling what horrors may be unleashed. This is the Grimoire of Familiar Killers.
No.
I don't get it. They should be here by now.
What are you going to do?
There we go.
I did it. Well, we don't get the regular intro. We had some technical difficulties, but hello and welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly roundtable discussion, reaction, review podcast where we deep dive into a movie way too deep until we've talked about all there is to talk about, or we expire from old age. It is episode 153 of the show, and if you're counting at home, it's season 3, episode 5. We've entered a new era. We've entered a new realm. We've got a big tournament on for November. Check our social media for all of that stuff. But look, it's October. The Grimoire of Familiar Killers has opened once again, and it's shooting goo and light and viscera and smoke. And the smoke smells like goo. Nope. I don't
Goo.
know.
Oh my God.
My name is Jason R. Phillips, and this is the Curse of Jason R. Phillips. I'm joined as always with my illustrious co-host, Stephen H.R. Geiger Waters.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's what they call me in the streets and the sheets.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a mouthful.
You're a horror beyond comprehension from the Planet X. And joining us once again for the third time, I believe, please welcome back to the show, Tatiana Ramos.
Thank you. For a good one. Chucky's a good one. Any of them.
Yeah. We discussed this. I believe you were on last in June for for Barbie. And after the show was over, we were like, we need to have you back. And then Chucky came up, and I immediately put you down on the sheet. And then I watched Chucky today, and I was like, did we give Tatiana a dud? But, I think there's lots to talk about in this film. thank you for coming back to the show. The Barbie episode was it's definitely a gem in our crown. It's a good episode. It's a long episode. We covered a lot. Noel is the resident Barbie expert for that one, and they said a lot of words about it. But you as well were very knowledgeable about Barbie, so I think it came together in a really unique way. I think it's one of my favorite episodes that we've done. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I loved it. We got to talk about like feminism and the patriarchy. It was dope.
Yeah, me and Steve had to kind of sit back and, let the women talk. Not tonight.
I know, you kept saying that over and over again. And I was like,
yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. Right. So let's, sorry. I forgot to mention this to you, Tat, before we started, but the guest now does sort of a brief synopsis. Do you feel comfortable doing that?
It's going to be like a really rough synopsis, but I'm going to do my best. My partner makes fun of me for my inability to summarize things for him.
Perfect.
Well,
okay.
You're not doing it for your partner, you're doing it for Zardos.
Okay.
He demands it.
Oh gosh. The floating head.
Zardos speaks to you.
Am I going? Do I do it now?
He demands
really?
you
Okay. I'm really thrown into the
synopsize
deep end.
this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
That's right. Ever since we did Zardos last week, 2 weeks ago, last week.
He showed up and he hasn't left. He's still here in the studio. He is the studio. We're actually inside of Zardos' head right now.
We're inside the head of Zardos. But yes, just give us, a quick synopsis. What's this movie about?
Okay, first of all, I think hilarious if that was like the GPS navigator, like Google Maps used that voice for you, would be ideal. You'd take a really long time to get anywhere.
Zardos demands you turn left.
You fool.
You fool.
And keep going for 300 feet. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, Curse of Chucky. This was what I hadn't seen before. It takes place in one of the creepiest houses I've ever really seen. It seems odd to me that people live there and seem to want to stay living there. That seems to be a big crux of the movie. A doll gets delivered unplanned. There's some sweet flirting at the door. And of course, the doll is Chucky. Who sent him? We don't know. Probably some nefarious means, maybe Chucky himself. And Chucky goes on a killing rampage like he always loves to do. Although this time there seems to be a very specific reason he chose this family to begin with. Creepy elevators, woman in a wheelchair crawling up the stairs and then falling downstairs, eyes getting popped out. Really, really questionable parenting, I think is the big one there. And oh gosh, I don't want to say if anyone survives, but he sure does.
That's
it. That's the movie.
That's pretty much it.
Not a very complicated movie. You can sum it up really quickly, even if you can include all the deaths. It's not that complicated.
All takes place in the house too, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, that was because of budgetary restraints, but it also kind of works in the movie's favor, I think.
That house looked like it was about to be bulldozed over. So seems like maybe they got it on the cheap.
It looked like the Dietz house from Beetlejuice was on its last legs.
Yeah.
It's a house in Winnipeg, and then they recreated the interiors of the home on the soundstage in Winnipeg as well. Or I think just in the same province, but...
Do they often film in Canada for those? Because they did the TV show here too.
I mean, it is cheaper to film here, so I think they just when they have to, they do. But they do film a lot of Chucky stuff up here, so maybe Don Mancini likes it up here. He likes the cold. I don't know the reason.
Why don't we give our brief history?
Oh, okay. A brief history.
From here on out, you know everything. Everything is the same as the last time you were on. The guest always goes first here on Hey, Did You See This One? So why don't you give us your brief history with Curse of Chucky, Chucky in general? Just tell us about it.
This was actually my first time seeing Curse of Chucky. I feel like maybe I missed this this middle period of the movies because I watched the latest one. I only watched the first season of the show. But OG Chucky, I remember watching much too young. My brother and I loved the movies, I think, with the insane amount of cussing, especially from a creepy little doll. My favorite, our house always had dolls in it, like creepy, like little German dolls. That we were told we had to keep forever and would be passed down to me. Like it was a boon to my life. So I always loved creepy dolls. And I don't know, he's so funny. There's something about a scary movie, and I think it really made me start to love like the comedy and horror as well. And just it was just beautiful. Seed of Chucky is still to this day my favorite, although Bride of Chucky I think is obviously a close tie. Jennifer Tilly is amazing in it. But Seed of Chucky is just unhinged in a way that I think that was like the pinnacle.
Yeah, I think that this is, what is this, the 6th or 7th?
5th, I think.
Is it this the 5th?
Yeah.
No. 5th would have been actually Seed of Chucky, so maybe it's the 6th.
This is the 6th one, and it was sort of a direct response to people responding negatively to the fact that Chucky had become so comedic and unhinged in that sense. But I think people, after seeing this, were like, you could have made him a little bit funnier. we liked when he was a little bit funny.
We need those little one-liners,
Yeah, and then the Cult of Chucky, it kind of has a nice sort of marriage between the two, the sort of the unhinged comedy of Seed. It doesn't go as far because Seed really is a cartoon show at that point. It's straight up goofy. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your brief.
No, that was the end of mine.
Okay. I watched this because this was made for streaming and home video. Like it didn't actually get a theatrical release.
Okay, I made a note in my notes that was like, this movie feels like it's straight to Redbox.
This movie also has a lower budget than even the first Chucky movie did, and and that's not adjusting for inflation. It just literally had $4 million less dollars than the first movie had, and it was made 20 years later. So they had a lot to do with a lot of penny pinching to do with this movie. But I saw this on whatever streaming service it was on. It was probably Netflix when it first was released. And this, out of all of the Chucky movies, is the one that I have watched the least. And I think I'm sitting at a grand total of twice because I watched it once and was like, okay, I get it. I don't need to watch that again. But it does sort of set the new groundwork for where Chucky goes after this. Everything in this movie is referred back to in the movie that comes after it and the TV show. All of that stuff matters. So it's not like it's a throwaway movie, because when they were originally coming up with this, they were like, let's just do a reboot, but we'll still have Brad Dourif, but we'll just retell the story. And he didn't really want to do that. And then there was also sort of like the legal, the roundabout way to legally do it was kind of complicated because MGM owned the rights to Child's Play, so he couldn't retell the story of Child's Play. He only has the rights to the character of Chucky, so he's able to make a Chucky movie. He just can't make a Child's Play movie, which is why that other Child's Play movie exists with Mark Hamill. But yeah, I when I first saw this, I was kind of a little bit disappointed that it felt so sort of paint by numbers slasher movie to me. I'm like, it's not really doing anything new. It's not really doing anything creative. It's just taking a character I like and putting him into a new setting, which in this case is like a dark house, haunted house style movie, which isn't a bad thing. I had these expectations that I think I didn't taper enough and I didn't really understand what I was getting into. And I ended up being disappointed by it. But, on watching it again today, I'm like, it's pretty solid. Like, this is a pretty solid Chucky. It's fine, especially closer to the end. I'm like, oh, now we're getting the Chucky stuff that I like. I like the Chucky lore. I don't particularly like a bunch of idiots running around in a house scared of something that they don't understand, when I'm sitting here being like, just get him, Chucky. Get him, Chucky. Yell at them. Curse at them. That's what the Curse of Chucky is, by the way. It's just that he has a foul
Just
mouth.
him swearing. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have like a super strong memory of watching this, but it was like 2013, I think, is when it came out. So it was just something that I watched, and I did really love Chucky after that. So I was kind of rewatching them all, and my love of Chucky was so strong that there was a level of excitement there. But again, it didn't live up to the expectations that I had created for myself.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as for me as you guys. Like, very briefly, I watched it today, and I realized that I've said this about every single Chucky movie we've done, where it's like I watch one, I'm like, I'm going to watch the rest of them. We're about to finish up in the springtime with the last one, and then it's just TV. But I think actually I want to watch the next one because I want to watch through the TV show, because I find I'm more of a TV person in my day to day. Like, I watch a lot of movies now, but I still watch way more television, and I really want to get through that Chucky TV show because of how ridiculous it is. Me and Steve had started it probably in 2021, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I still have episode 7 downloaded to this very computer from when we were marathoning it. So I'd like to catch up, finish it up, and watch the show, because this movie feels like that middle part that, Seed of Chucky felt like the end of that style of Chucky movie, and this feels like it goes into the more TV feeling Chucky's. When we get to Cult of Chucky in a few months, that one I've actually seen bits and pieces of just on like television. But this one is what I thought that was. So I went into it like, oh, she's going to go to an asylum like immediately, like right after those first kills. I was like, the rest of this movie's in an asylum. That's actually the next one. So this was a brand new experience for me. It was very good. And that's pretty much it. I'm just excited about Chucky. And this is a great way to start the Grimoire month, the spooky month, because this one is a lot scarier fundamentally than the previous ones. And I was like, how does this all connect? It's got these great twists. I mean, great is subjective. Me and Steve talked about it a little bit online earlier, and he was like, it's not that good. And I'm like, I liked it. Spoilers for my final thought. But it is that bridge that sort of connects the more scary.
Also, that's not how the conversation went. You said this is one of the best Chucky movies, and I said this is one of the worst Chucky movies. I didn't say it's bad. I said it's one of the worst.
It's an opinion. Opinions exist for everyone.
That's true. Opinions are like assholes. Sorry.
It's a good sixth movie. Like name a better sixth movie.
One of the better sixth movies I've ever seen. Yes.
The rest of the sixth movies we're doing, I think they're all like I think the Friday the 13th is considered one of the better ones, but Halloween 6 and Nightmare on Elm Street 6 cannot be that good, right? Like,
are they actually called like 6? I feel
no,
like most movies give up at that point. They come up with new names.
We're in the realm of They all have like trying to find Nightmare on Elm Street. It's called like a new Nightmare Freddy's Dead or something like that, and the other one's called like Jason Lives. Kind of got. I
think there's one horror. I can't remember if it's Texas Chainsaw or something, but it's like the only difference is that it now has a "the" in front of it, and it is so confusing when you're trying to find the movie you want to watch, because it's just like, which one's the right one, and then you have to Google to figure out the year.
Yeah,
too much work.
It is. And I mean, we'll talk about those movies when we get to those movies, but some of them surprisingly they're better than even the earlier sequels. Some of them kind of smarten up and then fall apart again, and then like the eighth Jason movie is like terrible, but the sixth one is weirdly very good, and like there's
is 8 takes Manhattan.
Yeah.
I don't know, he plays basketball with a guy's head, right? That's pretty or he punches a guy's head off. I don't know.
When movies get that like so many in, even like Chucky is like a big one. Like a movie does well. Let's say cult following, it starts to do well. It starts to lean into what it thinks it's doing well, and then it almost leans too far, and then it pulls back. And I think this was like a real big pullback, and they're like, oh no, it's not quite where we need it to be. So it's like I guess like a rebalancing, like Steven said earlier. Like you're just kind of like, ooh, that's too much.
Yeah, and Don Mancini, the director of this movie, also directed Seed. And that's kind of the great part about Chucky, is that it's always been piloted by the same person, which is why there is sort of a thread that continues from the first one all the way up to the TV show, is that he's there to sort of guide the ship. And surprisingly enough, even when movies are flops and do terribly, like his production team and most of the people that would fire you for making Seed and having it flop so hard, they're like, no, we're gonna keep you around. We like that you like Chucky so much. So we're gonna make sure that you're always a part of Chucky. And he uses Chucky we've talked about this on a couple of the other Chucky episodes in the past, is that he uses Chucky.
Do you want to hit the director talk, just since we're...
All right. Quiet on set.
You want
Are we
this?
rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of
Sound. Speed.
action.
I knew that was going to happen. The reason I didn't hit it is because I know if I hit this, it's going to completely delete what I'm saying out of my brain, and I'm not going to be able to remember what it was.
The reason he was able to continue after Seed, the production team.
Oh yeah, so they basically had enough trust in him, but I think they also just liked him as a person. They're like, this guy's creative and interesting. Oh, this is what I was saying, is that he uses Chucky as a vehicle to tell stories that are very different than one another, and they just have this character of Chucky that can exist in these different worlds to tell these different stories, but they're all kind of connected with the same sort of guiding thread. And, so this one is his haunted house movie, whereas the last one was his exploration of gender and sexuality. And there's one before
also
that
doing
was
like
the fears of marriage.
And doing like a meta thing with the last one as well.
Meta? What do you mean?
Like he had literally Jennifer Tilly in the movie playing.
Oh,
herself,
right.
Which is kind of like the new Nightmare, where it's like a movie about Freddy Krueger. It's just like you're more correct, because he has the kid who's like non-binary and stuff. But that popped into my head. Sorry.
Right. Have you seen New Nightmare yet? No, still haven't watched.
No,
it?
I haven't got there.
Well, that movie should be called Meta Nightmare, because it is. It's a nightmare of meta.
Like Meta Knight from Kirby.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait till we get to that one in 5 more movies or whatever. It's like, I think that's like the 9th Freddy Krueger movie. But again, so this is back to what we were talking about before. The 9th Freddy Krueger movie is one of my favorite Freddy Krueger movies of all the Freddy Krueger movies. Even though technically it's not really Freddy Krueger, but we'll get to that when we talk to it later on.
Those years.
Yeah, in a couple of years we'll finally get to talk about New Nightmare.
That's funny, Tim. That's a funny joke, and everybody needs to look at it.
There we go. That's a real meta joke. But yeah, Don Mancini. We've talked about him in every one of our Chucky episodes, but I don't know if you guys have anything more to add. He's an interesting guy. He is, he has never shied away from putting sort of controversial takes into movies. He does like to express different gender identities, sexualities, all that kind of stuff usually exist in his movies to some degree. I think probably he is a gay man himself, so he's probably like, these are important things that we need to have in here, but like we have sort of this like queer fan base that spreads out beyond just Chucky fans, and people like Chucky specifically for this stuff because they connect to it. I'm not sure if that's why I connect to it so much, but I do. It's definitely helps. Definitely makes me feel comfy in my Chucky pajamas.
I think since if you want to hear like what we said about Don Mancini, we've gone into his work pretty deep 5 other times, but I will say that this film is the first time that they sort of use CGI as a crutch, which is unfortunate. There's one particular sequence where Chucky's walking down a flight of stairs and he's full CGI, and it's definitely 2013 and it's definitely low budget. But that said, there still is a lot of great practical in this, but then they take that great practical and cover it over with stuff like the equivalent of like a digital blood squib. They do a lot of like touch-ups with CGI in this film, which
what?
No.
Where are you talking about? The only CGI that I noticed was that shitty him walking down the stairs. Where are digital squibs? What are you talking about?
The stab to the eye jump scare had
that was real. That was real blood.
Yeah, I'm saying it's practical, but then they touch it up with CGI. I noticed.
No, I don't know. I was watching a pretty high resolution file. I don't know if maybe I wasn't paying hard enough attention, but I was actually super happy about how practical it was, because I remember the digital Chucky, and the fear I had was what you're describing right now, and I didn't see it throughout. It's like the blood, when the blood comes out of the priest's neck when he gets his head lobbed off in a horrible
So much blood.
car accident that makes no sense. I'm like, I don't see how this happened here, but
You
okay.
have to,
I like
and
it.
his hands back. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to take off. You got to get this out of him. Get this out of him. I'm like,
No,
you are not a doctor, sir. You are a beat cop. Why is anyone
Yeah.
listening to you?
The hand
His
was
head
already
falls off.
the hand was unrelated. He had already chopped his hand off before he got into a car accident. For fun. And then but like the eyeball, yeah, but I don't remember any sort of digital blood that was egregious. There was like 2 parts that made me go, oh, this feels very television of the era, you know? Because I think about like CGI in 2013. It wasn't bad. It was not bad at all. Like think about like Davy Jones from 2003 or whatever, with the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, some of the best CGI ever made. So in 2013, they definitely had they had the technology, but
Yeah, but their budget's also trash.
no, the budget of this movie went entirely into the practical effects. That's where all the like for all the animatronic dolls and the faces. Like I watched like a pretty lengthy like mini doc today of just about the animatronics for this movie, and I'm like, and they're like, so this is basically where 80% of our budget went, because all of our actors were like, you know, making regular scale and not a lot, and
Yeah,
a lot of
they're all relative
working very
unknowns
cheap.
in this movie. There's nobody really. Fiona Dourif is in it, but she'd only been in a couple things up to this point. I think she played literally a prostitute on Deadwood, was her biggest role up to this point. And then Brad Dourif is probably the biggest name. He's first billed, in fact, in the credits. And the
What
rest
about
of the
Andy?
people,
Wait, is
I guess.
is that the husband?
Brad Dourif is
No,
the
the-
voice
the-
of Chucky.
The voice.
Yeah,
Okay,
the voice of
thank
Chucky.
you.
Chuck D.
His daughter, Fiona Dourif, is the wheelchair person.
They have the same eyes. If you see him from like the 80s and then her like from now, they have the same
You do see him from the 80s in this movie.
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess when they do like literally play a scene from
They do look a
the
lot
first
alike.
Chucky.
Actually,
Yeah.
in the TV show, anytime they're showing young Brad Dourif, like young
It's-
Charles Lee Ray, it's her playing him in drag. So she's like dressed as a man, and she has like a little bit, you know. And so it's like, and then they just use
Crazy
his
hair.
voice. Yeah, so they like dub her over with him. So like she's doing all the physical performance of Brad Dourif, and then Brad Dourif is doing the voice. It's pretty cool.
Did you end up going and watching like the whole show?
I didn't watch the whole show, but I finished the first season, and then I believe
I did the
started
first season when it
second
came out, and then I honestly just didn't realize it got a second season. And
It's hard when you don't have like TV, because it's not a streaming service. It's an actual television channel that I'm like,
It's on like Showcase in
Which
Canada.
means like it takes like a lot of effort for me to get it and watch
Yeah.
it. I have to
I
like
agree.
if it can't play on the PlayStation, it's just a little too tough.
And it doesn't play at all. Yeah.
That's fun. Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't have much else to talk about in terms of Don Mancini, but we can just get into the body. But I mean, I do like talking about the behind the scenes stuff for these movies, because I find it endlessly interesting, like just all the special effects and when you see the fake heads, there's so many fake heads for this movie that I didn't even really take into consideration, because most of the kills are so quick and they don't linger on it. Obviously the priest's head is a big one, but like the Ian, like the husband character, there's a fake head for him, there's a fake head for the eye stab, there's a fake head for the priest, and they're
Fake head
showing
for
all
Chucky.
yeah, but they keep showing them, and I'm like, those are probably some of the best fake heads I've ever seen. Like even in movies that have bigger budgets than this, I've seen worse fake heads.
I wanted to point this out from Luna Divineer. I remember exactly now why Tatiana was on this show. It's because we were doing Barbie, and you were like, I love puppetry, and I was like, you know what we have coming up. So,
Well, I was also, I think the first time it was Kubo and the Two Strings, which was also just like crazy cool like animatronics. So we have a theme now, guys. I only do dolls. So anything going forward,
All
keep me in that.
We'll have to come up with some more doll movies. Valley of the Dolls. There's no
that's
dolls
not,
in that.
No, that's a softcore adult film.
No, it isn't. What the fuck are you talking about?
Isn't Valley of the Dolls like a women doing it for themselves with their tops off?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a different movie. Maybe that's like maybe you watched a porn parody of the dolls.
but just soft.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking there's something similarly named that's a John Waters movie. I'm pretty sure they used to play on Showcase all the time.
Oh, oh god, my John Waters knowledge is not working right now.
Yeah, but that's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
I didn't say Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I said Valley of the Dolls.
Yeah, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is a John Waters film, and he definitely does the John Waters sex positive thing in that movie. That's what I'll say.
John Waters loves sex.
He does.
Okay, so
He was also like, I'm on stage and I'm smoking a cigarette, and I bet you wish you had a cigarette. There's that. Yeah, Russ Meyer. This is Russ. Yeah, also Russ Meyer. Like those sex positive films. Steve left. He's done.
He's like, this isn't Chucky.
while you're off screen, can you hit the body of the episode if you want to move on? Or?
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
all right, here we
So
are.
what you're saying is you don't want to do a Russ Meyer month.
Who said that? You?
Oh, wait, I'm saying that's what you're saying. That was a joke. Immediately, this film has a different tone from the last, and we open up with essentially Nika, a paraplegic woman living with her mother Sarah, receives a strange package.
I
And we all
actually
know
nailed
it.
that in my summary.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And because this is a Chucky movie, a cursed Chucky movie, we know what's in that package. Immediately,
it was just the
Chucky
size of
size.
the average doll that your child has, just
that is
ginormous.
a Chucky-sized box. Yeah.
I got a Chucky doll because my brother also just loves the movies. I got a Chucky doll, like an actual sized, full in its box Chucky doll for him for like a birthday or Christmas or something. I don't remember. And it sat in his apartment, and it is just so creepy the way it just looks at you and its size. And I'm like, I don't know if I could just keep that in my bedroom. Like, I don't know. Even when I had it like wrapped to give him, I had to like hide it. I think I put it in my car because it was just like away from me.
Put it in the trunk.
Yeah. Also, he could get me.
Yeah, we all know that putting Chucky in the trunk of a car will not stop
Bad.
it. Yeah, he will get out. Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to get one too, but I don't.
They're expensive. Like,
And,
stupid
yeah,
expensive.
and I'm also not huge on like having memorabilia and stuff. Like, I'm not like a big like. I want to have this item. I don't really care.
You would kind of need like a theme of a bunch of things. Like, I think if you just had a Chucky doll in your very normal, like, what did you say, like millennial gray home, like it would just be like really uncomfortable for
I need
anyone
a pop
that
of
came over
color.
to visit you.
Yeah, you know what's colorful? A red-headed doll in a rainbow sweater. That'll bring
You can
some
like
life to this.
push the
room.
hand like through the box for it to say like want to play. I'm your friend to the end.
Yeah.
Him saying I might have a new shtick for my physical notes, but I forget what that might be. I have a question for you guys. Did you guys watch the television program Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency?
Yes.
I watched the first season. Yes.
So you might remember Fiona Dourif as a
Crazy person.
psychotic killer.
Yeah,
And that was
she goes into like a berserk mode or whatever, like a rage, like a D&D
like
rage.
Hulks out.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to her, and she has a very a much more plain look in that show. Like, she's not really, but in this she's done up with the makeup, and I was captivated by how like pretty she is, and I didn't realize. And I'm just watching this movie like, wow, she's so like she pops on screen, and I wish that she was in more stuff, like she's a good actor, and she comes from she's a nepo baby, I guess, sort of.
Well, she didn't actually get this role because of Brad Dourif. She got this role because she auditioned for the sort of like shitty mom character.
Okay.
But she
Like
had
the
been
sister?
the sister character, and she had been in some Hallmark movie or something where she was also playing a paraplegic in that. So she had all this like experience in a wheelchair where she could like move it around and do stuff really easily. So she did that in the audition, and they're like, "What the fuck? How do you know how to do all this wheelchair trickery?" And it's because she did that, and they hired her specifically for that. And then they're like, "Also, you're Brad Dourif's daughter, so this would be kind of a cool thing to do."
Keep it in the family.
Yeah,
I can't do
keep
a
it-
Chucky voice, so
Keep it in the family.
Keep it in
Yeah.
the family. I was curious about that because like her no feeling in her legs from the waist down acting was pretty good. I kept waiting for her to like mess up, like move her toes, and she was. I
Jason
know that
is
sounds.
admitting to staring at her.
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
after saying she was very pretty and he was captivated
Okay.
through the movie.
Listen,
There is a
realize how that
scene though,
sounds.
right at the beginning, Jason, where she is very much standing up. We looked at it based on the door to where she went in to check on her mom, fully standing. I was like, and then she went back to the wheelchair, and I was confused. I had to actually Google and be like, is she wheelchair bound? Is it just like she sprained her ankle and she's just keeping it safe? Like, what's going on?
Well, that's our show for this week. Sorry.
It was just that one thing at the
from
beginning.
the foot fetishing accusations.
No, calling me out on her literally standing.
Only-
I
It was just right at the beginning, and I was like, oh, she can actually walk. I'm like, I didn't know. And then I was like, oh no, it was just, I think, a scene.
She has been in a lot though.
Are you looking at her IMDb?
Yeah.
Well, that's how
Um,
I found out that she was on Deadwood, which Brad Dourif was also on as the medicine man, the doctor, which completely unrecognizable on that show. He's got like a beard, like a goatee, and I watched the whole series recently, and I'm going, why does his voice sound? Why does this guy look so familiar to me? And it sounds so familiar. And
Why
then
does
I
he
was
sound
like, oh,
exactly like Chucky?
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not like she doesn't do stuff. I think it's just more so stuff that maybe you're not watching. You know, she's not in an MCU movie or anything. She's like, she does mostly like, oh, she was in the Purge television show.
I didn't even
Is
know
that
it was a
Purge television show?
That's something that I've always been kind of like limply interested in. Where I'm like,
The
"Okay,
Purge?
I'd watch that.
Like you? Oh, okay, I thought you meant you wanted to be involved in a purge.
No,
I'm like, Steven,
I
you,
would
do you
die.
believe you'd make it?
I don't think I do. Anytime someone's like, I want there to be a zombie apocalypse or I want there to be a purge, I'm like, do you really? Do you think
No,
you
you
would
don't.
survive? You would
No.
die.
Look,
I would
Donald Trump.
starve to death
Donald
within
Trump,
a
low
day.
key, was like, "What if there was like a day where everybody could just do whatever crimes?" And people are like, "Did you just say let's have a purge day?" Because
I don't think he's
that's what
ever
that
seen The
sounds like.
Purge. So I think he's
Probably
like,
not.
wow,
Or
I come up with such amazing ideas.
Or he had watched The Purge the night before, and he was
He
like,
thought it was like a documentary or something.
He just calls when people say the purge to him, he thinks that he shit himself again. He's like,
Oh,
oh,
no.
I purged myself.
I just piped my pants. Yeah. Right. So basically, the next thing
Body
that
of the
kind of-
episode.
Yeah.
the next thing that kind of happens in the film is that Sarah's found dead in what appears to be a suicide, but the real culprit is Chucky,
Shocked.
obviously.
Shocking.
And he
Also,
pushed her to her
suicide
death.
by stabbing yourself with a
With
giant pair of
scissors or knife?
scissors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the stomach seems terrible. Like mostly it's
Seems
like,
like-
what's a painless way for me to go?
Yeah.
She's taking all these
And I made a
medications.
note. I made a note that was like, not the reflection in the blood. And then, so she's going to get blamed for the murder and sent to the mental institute. I'm still, at this point, I'm like, this is the mental institute one.
Okay.
Our reflections, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the old Chucky ones, but with, like reflections were a lot in this. Like he was constantly in like the knife, blood pools. I can't remember what else.
Eyes.
I think maybe computer screen. I don't.
Barb in
Yeah.
the knife was the knife reflection where she can see kind of behind her. That is that's a common trope for Chucky, because it, like the computer screen thing too, because it's always like you see him moving and everybody else can't see him moving. And then this one has an egregious amount of him being moved around, like he runs around and then sits down and then they're like, how did you get there? But the most I think I've ever seen in a Chucky movie.
Because it's
Yeah.
a creepy house.
And
That
without
house did it.
and without another explanation being possible, at least in like the other movies, there are children in the house that it's like, oh, the kid probably moved it. Where it's like, okay, we can logically we know it's Chucky moving, but the people in the movie can always just be like, oh, that's weird.
It's the kid, yeah.
The kid did it. But in this movie, she's alone in a house and she's like, I definitely didn't bring the Chucky doll to the bathroom with me. Like,
yeah. Also, nobody's gone to the bathroom and the doll was just in the chair.
Yeah. That's,
yes.
you know, it's a little sloppy for me where I'm like, okay. I get it. All right. This is just making the characters seem stupid. It's making all the characters seem dumb.
They were preoccupied by grief.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of grief going on in this movie. I'll tell you that much. There was like maybe a little bit of grief right at the beginning, and then they just completely become fine.
But I feel like everybody, oh my God, I know with the dinner being made, everyone's all happy with their, I was very confused. I was like, tomato soup. I'm like, oh no, there's stuff in it. Okay, now it's chili. I'm understanding.
Well, when she's chopping the tomatoes, I was like, is that foreshadowing for Chucky doing chopping?
That's just Mancini being a goofy man. Where he's
I was like, she's gonna chop the kid's like finger off or something, or her own. Like it was just way too aggressive.
It's like, have you never used a knife? And
that's how you lose a tomato. Like you chop in half, just like who knows?
Goes across the room.
Before we get to that sequence, basically we're introduced to Barb, the kid. I can't remember the kid's name. It's like Alex or something. And then Ian, I think, is the dad. Are those the correct names?
I just call them bad mom, bad dad.
Yeah,
I was like, that's a bad mom. That's a bad dad.
It's Alice.
A cute kid. That's a Chucky-ian.
It's Alice. It's Barb. It's Ian, and then Jill as the babysitter.
Au pair.
Au pair.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I wrote, the dad is for sure banging the nanny.
I put that too. I didn't say dad. I said someone. One of them is sleeping with the nanny. Like one of them sleeping with the nanny.
That's insightful. We should have known better because of it being Don Mancini, who, you know, he's a gay man himself, but he also likes little twists in his Chucky movie.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it's so typical for it to be like the dad sleeping with the au pair. I'm like, no. I feel like it's one of them leaning towards the mom. So
they telegraph it a little bit like as a misdirect, because when they go upstairs, the girl goes to the bathroom. They're literally flirting outside the bathroom, and it's played like that's what's happening. But as they did this cool effect where like they're talking to each other and the sound goes down, and then it goes into the bathroom, and then Chucky's just like being a weirdo.
Yeah, and then the audio immediately turns to a child peeing, and I'm like, ugh. I don't want to.
That was a lot.
That's when Steven like looked away. He was like, "Oh, thank you."
That was the first time that I was like, I'm turning the volume down here. This is weird. Too weird.
I don't really like hearing someone pee. So
me neither.
Have any age.
One, it makes me have to pee immediately, and two, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like pee. So yeah, then also this little girl is jump scared by Chucky, and then has the most appropriate reaction, which is to grab him and hug him. Would you not be terrified?
It's also not a doll that like personally I would look at and be like, what an adorably cute doll. Like they make him look creepy. He doesn't like the good guy doll is not something that I even as a child would want in my home.
I think it's because in the 80s the Cabbage Patch Kids were so popular, and they are also demon spawn.
Oh, Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy too.
Right, so they looked for their era, they looked fine. But you fast forward 25 years, and Chucky in a regular 2013 universe looks nightmarish. But you know, the girl likes her. The design of Chucky in this one, before he's unveiled, even looks a little bit different. They even do this thing where he's got like a CGI face. When his eyes come to life, it's like this weird. I don't know. Did they talk about that in the mini doc that you watched, Steve? It looked like the face looked like it was superimposed over. You know how Chucky goes from
it's all real,
like,
and then
that was real.
Yes, I think your brain is broken. So, I'm sorry.
No, I'm telling you, like in this iteration,
the irises of the eyes. The irises of the eyes.
When his eyes go bloodshot, when he's like,
yeah, that's CGI.
I'm Chucky now.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Okay.
So, and it looked like
the whole face. I'm like, no,
not like behind you there, or like when he's talking. Just when he was doing the like death stare, when he was clearly like, I'm Chucky now. it
Well,
had this
that also has
weird-
happened in the other movies as well, right? It's like when the eyes turn to a more realistic looking eye and has like the bloodshot sort of veins in it. Like that's why you know Chucky is
Chucky.
But
is there.
that's practical in the previous movies. I know that.
Well,
that's
this is
like,
just the irises just open up. That's all that happens digitally. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
And then there's other parts later. It looks odd, yes, but it's because they've done a thing where they're like, we want Chucky to look weird so that when he starts to pull off all the makeup that he's been wearing, then he looks like the Chucky that you know, and he does, right? Like he only looks strange when he's talking before he removes all that. And they did that deliberately because they're like, we want to make it look like Chucky made himself a fake Chucky face.
Put like a bunch of like latex and stuff like on his and putty on his face to just be like, I'm a normal Chucky doll, I swear.
I did a pretty good job.
His death stare in this before he talks, when his eyes go bloodshot and he's got like the 1,000-yard stare, I thought was one of the best versions, the most unsettling, because he looks different. Because that's the thing that was happening to me through this first act of the movie. I was like, why does he look different? Is this like a different timeline? But then obviously he pulls the stuff off and everything starts to come together in the continuity of the story of Chucky, of Child's Play. So like I even wrote here, I find Chucky not scary at all typically. Why is the vibe of this one so spooky? Here's Chuck. The evil sister Barb wants to send Nika to a home. She wants to sell the house. They split the money. Nika has to spend her half of the money on like living in care, which just sucks. And she reveals, Barb and Ian reveal that they have a magazine or a newspaper, which I was like, 2013 is about when all of that stuff really.
They said print media, right? They're like, print media is dead. And I'm like, I guess.
It's been dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what they did.
But they're also super religious. They're also weirdly religious.
Who brings a priest? I don't know.
Magazine.
Like what? And maybe years ago, but it'd be so weird to just bring a priest. I don't even know a priest. I mean, you know what? To be fair, I'm not part of a church. Maybe if I was part of a church, a priest would come to my house for a death.
When I was a kid, my extended family, we'd go to their house and there would be a priest like almost all the time. And I
bet that priest wished he didn't come.
It was always so strange. Like he's, friend of the family. He wouldn't be at every function, but sometimes he would be there for stuff. And I was always so confused as to why there was a religious figure at our family dinner. So I've had this.
Okay.
He wasn't dressed like a priest, like he didn't have his priest uniform on, but like, he was there. He was a priest and he was there. And I don't know if he still goes because I haven't really been to any of those family functions in a long time, but he might not even be alive anymore. He was pretty old when I was a kid. I don't know.
He was pretty old 30 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, to say who brings a priest, I know who brings a priest.
People bring priests.
And I didn't like it. And when I think about it now, if I was going through some sort of traumatic event and like my sister showed up with a priest, I would politely ask them to leave. I most definitely wouldn't be like, you guys want to stay for chili?
Or excuse yourself.
Yeah.
There's also a funny line where I think Ian says, "It's a doll. What's the worst thing that can happen, huh?" And then I looked at the screen in life. I looked at the camera in reality.
You looked in the mirror and did a Jim face from The Office.
Yeah. I talked directly to the audience like Deadpool.
And Jesus.
No, that's just you talking to yourself again, Jason.
Also, to be fair, I agreed with the mom. The child had too many dolls. She really did not need
She had a full suitcase
3 foot tall giant doll.
Yeah.
In their home.
Also,
yeah,
creepy.
She becomes
doll.
friends with it.
I guess the other dolls were pretty creepy too. When they finally start to unload all the other dolls, I'm like, all these dolls are creepy. So she just likes creepy dolls. This little
because it's like a really lifeless face. It's the eyeballs, I think. They're just like, I can't even do it. I can't dead eye that hard.
But I mean, the earlier Chucky movies, like the first Chucky movie and the second one, when he's in doll mode, he does look kind of cute. Like he looks like a cute little he's not as creepy. It's when he starts to yell at you and call you a whore and stab you and stuff. That's when it's scary. It's scary.
I love his voice. I love the way he speaks to like 6-year-old children. I think it's just so incredibly inappropriate, and they're all just so dumb. They're like, "Okay, Chucky, Like, he's like,
Yeah.
shut your fucking mouth. And
This
they're
is
like,
gonna be-
Chucky, don't swear. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
It is like, and it's like he tries sometimes, right, to be like polite, but he still will curse. But then there's times where you can tell when he's trying to be polite, but he's losing his patience. Like when she's like, "This is gonna be the best game of hide and seek ever," and he's like,
Yeah, just keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah. I think like that's a common thread of, across all the movies where it does come to a point where he's trying to like be a little bit better, especially when his wife, the two movies with his wife, he's trying so hard and then he just unravels. And I think that's when Chucky's at his best, when he's unraveling. He's like, and even see Charles Lee Ray in the later scene, like this dude was an unhinged, like criminal serial killer, sadistic, like nightmare person.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Who like tries so hard and then just unravels.
I'm not sure I like the rendition of him in this movie. It's fine when he's Chucky, but like I'm used to a particular type of Charles Lee Ray, and never has he ever been like a weird obsessive psychopath where he like, I'm gonna kidnap you and we're gonna be a happy family in a warehouse together. It's like,
like not like a stalk this woman who's like 9 months pregnant and be like, you're mine till the end.
Yeah, it's off-putting for one. It removes the sort of humor from the character and it makes him seem almost unreasonably crazy. Whereas like he's like, I just like murder. It's a good fun thing to do with the family. Whereas like in this one, he's like, I'm obsessed with your family and I want your baby.
There's actually just something where like, oh, this guy just likes to go around like murdering a bunch of people, and you're like, hey, crazy, but like funny in this context. Guy keeping a woman in his basement, that takes it to a level where I'm like, I'd rather you just like.
There's nothing funny about that, Charles.
Indiscriminately murder.
That sequence, we'll get to it, but that sequence is definitely uncomfortable. I want to talk a little bit about how there's the wild chopping scene, which we mentioned, where they're making soup.
I actually really like this whole sequence, the food stuff. It's really
Barb,
except for one thing.
Barb condescends to her. She's like, "How are you going to make dinner for 8 people?" And she's like, my wheels are an extension of my body. I kind of got it though, because people in wheelchairs aren't like they just have problems with stairs. They can still do most.
You can make dinner. Yeah.
They can definitely make dinner.
How are you going to make dinner if you can't even fucking walk?
Yeah,
to be fair,
very much in the sense of just like, because she's in this wheelchair, she's like, you can't do anything, and you're like,
she's in a complete invalid.
Her day to day.
To be fair, she does end up making chili, which is basically a thick soup, which is one of the easiest foods you can make.
Jason the ableist over here. Come on, man.
I just said that I was just not ableist.
6 to 8 people for dinner. You're like, what can I make the most of? Because you throw some water and stuff in it. Chili's a good one. Soup's a good one. I thought you were thinking pasta.
Right.
She didn't know they were coming.
I read. I guess she's good. I guess she made a tomato murder soup. Where did this doll come from? And then we see Chucky putting rat poison into one of the dishes, right? And then I thought they were going to do a thing where it's like, who has the poison, but it's very clear when they sit down at the priest, they show it.
No, they don't.
I didn't know who it was. I thought it was very well done and like kind of like the just slow eating as we're just going around the table.
They even do thing. Hold on, let me fucking finish. They even do a thing where the camera pans up and you don't, and the table starts spinning. There's 6 of them, like it's a barrel of a gun, Russian roulette style. They spin it to confuse the audience as to who is sitting at what place.
But how come I wasn't confused? I was like, when the priest sat down,
picked the right thing. You basically picked the right thing.
The priest sat down at exactly where I saw that it went. That's crazy.
I don't know how you did that, because the way they put it down is they put it down in the frame and then it cuts away and all of the soup is there. So you don't know.
Because all my notes here are going, why are they doing this like misdirect thing?
It was a mystery to the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's
I think you just somehow picked the right person before the scene completed its way through, because they specifically, the way they edited it is to make it confusing so you don't know which one it is from the get-go.
Yeah,
they put down. Listen, I get that you picked the right thing, but what I'm telling you is that you did it accidentally. Because okay, go ahead.
I just want to give you some more context to how sure I was. I wrote goes to the priest. I thought, oh, it's actually chili. They keep teasing in this annoying way. Like in that, and I wrote, are we not supposed to know who got the rat poison? It was for sure the priest.
you don't know who got the rat poison because it doesn't go to anybody because the entire table is set before they get there. So you don't. I don't know how you would know that. All of
I
the
have
soup
to
is
go
there.
back and watch that scene again because I'm sure that they placed them down, and I was like, "That's where the rat poison is." And the priest sat at it, and I was like, "Boom."
So the only reason I guessed priest, because I did like the mystery, was because I'm like, they're not going to kill the family members right away. Like, of course, we bring
That's
the
a good
extra
point,
person
yeah.
in, and this is it. So that was like why I was like, there's no way. Also, they're killing a 6-year-old child with rat poison.
Yeah.
So like when they teased it, I'm like, no, I'm not stupid. No movie's going to do that because it will just alienate
But I also
everybody.
I do want to say how clever the framing was because
Mhm.
they put the food down, and then as everybody's coming to the table, the camera goes to a bird's eye view of the table, and it's rotating, so it looks like a giant barrel of a gun, like the chambers of a gun,
yeah.
and there's 6 of them, and it looks like and it's spinning like Russian roulette. And I'm like, this is extremely creative filmmaking, and I really like what's going on here. Because it's doing exactly the purpose is to like spin the barrel so you don't know which one has the poison in it, and then they all sit down, and then everybody at the table has a weird reaction to the food. Like the husband does like a fake out of
He's
like,
like,
oh my
this is delicious.
this is the best chili I ever had.
The
And
sister,
then-
is there meat in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the little girl being like, this tastes nasty. And I'm like, oh no, she ate the poison. And then it's like, oh no, she turns out she's just a rude little bitch. She's
There's too much oregano.
Okay, but
There's
as a
too
kid,
much
I
oregano.
hated beans. Like I liked the taste of chili, but beans were weird to me. They were mushy.
Hmm.
It was a weird thing to eat. I
And
think
then
the kids just like beans are weird.
And then the priest gets diarrhea, and he's like, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Holy
I
shit.
honestly- And I like that his Steven.
Well, there's like there's low key a thing about him being like an ex-alcoholic,
yeah.
and then when
It's
he
very
gets
throwaway.
up and he's like, he gets up. I don't know what we're supposed to be implying. Obviously, he was like, I got this tummy rumbles. Was that supposed to be like a chili joke? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I gotta go to the washroom, and he leaves.
I got the runs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Really-
I think it was just a way to get him to leave and then to introduce the cop.
Yeah.
And then it's very clunky and weird, but it's like
They jumped to it so fast. Like I thought we'd at least see like something.
low
But it's just
budget.
like bam.
They spent
The
all the money on
dialogue-
his head falling off. And they're like, we can't do anything else.
The dialogue at the dinner sequence was also like pretty bad. Like
It was also so long, and this is the part of the movie
Yeah.
that I had told you
They
guys I had to
dragged
look
it on
away.
this much.
The part that I told you I had to look it away at is when they are all eating and it's doing close-ups of their mouths and they're like, "Nyam, nyam." I was like, I need to. I have a very. If someone's chewing with their mouths open, like I actually get physically upset, and if you have like a frog in your throat, sometimes if I ever say like, can you clear your throat? It's not because like I'm trying to be rude. It's because I'm actually having a physical reaction to the
Yeah,
sound that's
that's
coming out of
really
your mouth.
funny. I'm the same way about the clear your throat thing. That's really funny.
I'm
Like
sure I've
vocal
said it.
fry.
I think
You've
I've
never said
on-
it to me.
I have said it
but-
to you. I have on this very podcast. There's evidence.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
You got a pretty bad frog in your throat once, and I yelled at you to clear. I was like, clear your goddamn throat right now. It's making me feel like I'm gonna have.
Costs nothing to be nice to your best pal.
I didn't
feel
say
like
it that rudely.
in this scene for
Yeah,
me, it's-
Luna, roll the clip.
I really hate the sound of cutlery on people's teeth. It really gets me in a
Oh,
bad
like
way, and
dragging it?
especially like
Yeah.
a spoon. And I just feel like that was also in it too. I'm like, I don't need to see. And they did drag it on.
It
Like
went
I understand
too
it was
long,
building the suspense, but I'm like, again, like cool scene, really cool. But it could have been quicker. And then I would have liked to see, maybe a little bit more
Yeah,
of a
and
priest.
then-
But I understand budget.
But then we get this really clunky scene. Jason, you were explaining a little bit where it's like this guy. I don't know. His name's like Lieutenant Stafford or Stratton or something. Stratton.
Yeah, I never clocked his name
He-
because the whole cop thing feels a little bit shoehorned just to like make an ending.
Yeah. So he shows up and it's like, yeah, he was drunk, and he's like, there's no way he was drunk. How would you know?
Right.
He's my sponsor. He hasn't been drinking in like 15 years or whatever. And so then he knows where he was because he's friends with him. So like they had all this sort of weird, sort of clunky dialogue right up to the point of his head falling off. That is just there so that we can have a cop burst in at the end of the movie.
Just so crazy that he had the thing to be like, I'm gonna go above paramedics and firemen who have the training.
Yeah,
And
we
be
can't
like,
do
get it
that.
out of him. And they're like, no, we can't. And they're like, just do it.
Just
It's
do
like,
it. That's an order. It's like, you're
is
not
it a
the
scene
chief of
in-
police.
There's a scene in one of the scary movies that has Charlie Sheen and his wife's like pinned to the tree, and they're like, to get the car away, and then she just completely falls apart.
But there's also like a bunch of sequences right up to that where the cop is trying to explain to him what that means. He's like, what does that mean though? And
Yeah.
she takes
So
like a
can I
hot
have
dog
some
and
time
like
with the bottom half? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do love
Scary
those
movie
movies.
4. Yeah. We did Signs, which is like the main plot
Yeah,
for
what
Scary
it's
Movie
based on.
4. Yeah. And we talked about that scene a lot. I think we talked about the sequence that Steve was just mentioning where they just show all the different ways that the
The
person is
taco,
murdered.
and then it's
Yeah.
just like all the
She just
taco.
keeps-
filling.
like a
Oh.
Twinkie. Yeah, she just keeps ripping things in half.
Yeah. There was a foreshadow moment where this is how I interpret it anyway, where Father Frank is like, I'll see you in the morning at the cemetery. I thought that there was more foreshadowing in this movie. I thought that the weird chopping was going to be a foreshadow of like a way that Chucky kills. But Chucky, we'll get to it here in a second, but Chucky even pulls a knife out and then electrocutes somebody. So
He was
I
not
don't
as
know.
stabby as I wanted him to be in this.
yeah.
That's my complaint.
I think they wanted to have at least a little bit of a mixture of kills because he does stab someone directly in the eye and then he also
Mhm.
chops somebody's lower jaw off later.
Yeah, which is
And then
fucked.
like a hatchet to the knee. Lots
Yeah.
of there's
great.
some like
It is
Like-
crazy to think about that. I can watch that guy getting his lower jaw chopped off a million times and it doesn't affect me. But then them eating chili at a close up, I'm like, oh god, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it's eye stuff for me that makes me like, ugh, no matter what it is. Like, I think it's in one of the Jim Carrey movies where he like does this. I think it's Ace Ventura. He does that to somebody and they like can't handle it. I just can't handle touching eyes, stabbing eyes.
You just touched your own eyeball.
No, I pantomimed it. I
Okay.
pantomimed it pretty good. The first on-screen kill is the Father Frank having a fatal car crash on his way home. And that's where
also
we're at.
didn't feel very Chucky to me. I was like, Chucky's like an up close and personal kill.
Yeah, does
guy,
Chucky know this
Seems
happened?
crazy thing, or just like crazy. I guess he didn't know it would be the guy that like drove away, right? It could have been like a horrible death that was here.
Yeah, he was doing the Russian roulette of like one of these guys is gonna die. He's probably upset though that he didn't get to
He didn't
witness
get to
it for
see
sure.
it?
Yeah.
Also, it was very funny because when you saw the dishes on the table, it was so very clear that one dish had like a bunch of shit in it. That was like not. I'm like,
Yeah. It's just some extra feta on top of the
some flaky
mozzarella.
salt.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. It looked like thick salt.
And this
I
all
wrote
happens in one night, right? So like, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow in the cemetery, and then by the next morning, deaths.
Everyone's dead.
Not everyone.
yeah.
Mostly
It is
everyone's
all
dead.
one night,
Mostly
right?
everybody.
Yeah, it's one night of mayhem.
Yeah.
I wrote
Nobody's nice to each other in this movie.
no,
and-
everybody's a dick to each other.
Yeah.
I wrote, is Charles Lee Ray in the video? This
Yes.
is when they're watching home movies, right?
He's wearing a sweet red Hawaiian shirt, and he's like,
He looks like
Really
Tommy
greasy black
Wiseau.
hair.
he looks like Tommy Wiseau, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I did not kill them. I did not.
I did not.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Don't look at the comment, Jason. Don't do it.
Oh
Right.
yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, there's a fucking Chucky stomps on an eye in this one too. It's fucking gross.
I liked it.
Yeah, I can't. Eyeball stuff doesn't really bother me as much as like finger stuff. Like even the when she grabs the knife at the end, like that kind of thing, where like the blade is looking
That
For me, it's
Yeah.
like little slices. Like anything like Achilles heel or anything, I'm like, no, thank you. Like tiny slices, stabbing's almost easier. Any tiny slices, I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it. It
Finger
just
is
feels like a
getting
really
broken.
terrible paper cut.
Nika showing her cut leg on screen for more time than Chucky's on screen for.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly. Not literally, but
Do you feel
there's
like
a lot
this
of
always
that.
happens when someone goes home though, and you bring your spouse or partner? Like somehow families start showing home movies, and you're just stuck there, and your partner's
Never
stuck
once.
there. Oh,
Not a single time.
One of my partner's family did that a lot. We would go over and he would they would have some sort of event that happened with 1,000 photographs. And then we would sit there and watch.
And you just have to be like, oh, so cute. And like,
I fell
ask
asleep during one
questions.
once and I got in trouble. They got mad at me.
You're like, this isn't my family. I don't have any context to what's
You're showing me
great about this.
pictures of a wedding I wasn't at, and I don't know anyone in these pictures.
I just ate some food. I'm tired.
It was Thanksgiving too, so I had
Yeah.
just eaten a lot of food, and I was having trouble keeping my eyes open during
Yeah.
this board. And they like put it to slow, relaxing music or whatever. So I was and they had a fireplace on.
No,
So I
it's
was
too
like,
much.
yeah,
Even you had an appropriate reaction. Everybody's also
Yeah.
like, the family's like talking back and forth with like little memories and nostalgia, and you're just like,
Yeah,
so sweet.
I assume you were also like drinking post dinner, like
Or
that's
at
really
dinner,
cool.
Yeah,
wine was a
I think
big
we were
one at
having some wine. Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's prime pass out.
All of the odds were stacked against me being conscious throughout the entire slideshow.
Plus, sleep was kind of like an escape. So I think even getting in trouble, it's fine.
So
they show the movie.
we get to the point where there's like a storm outside. The phones, there's no cell service. The phones are cut. Barb's looking around for I wrote Jill, but Barb is looking around for the doll. She's gonna get murdered probably. But then, oh no, Jill is the au pair. Sorry.
Jill's the au pair, yeah.
She's looking
trying to
around for
find
the doll. Right. And then we get the first kind of like swerve where Barb catches up with Jill and she's like, did you find the doll? I was like, no, I didn't find the doll, but you come here. And they start kissing. And I was like, oh, what? I didn't
Bad
expect
mom.
it.
I
Find
was
your
like,
kid's doll.
they're doing, because the movie does try at least a little bit hard to make you think that the husband is going to be trying to bang the babysitter or whatever. But I, like Jason was like, it's Mancini though. And I've seen this before, but again, a long time ago, one time, this stuff does not stay with me. So I was like, oh, I see. The character is so unlikable. The mom character, Barb, is so unlikable that if they did make him be the one doing this, then there's going to be no likable characters. But they are all very unlikable for the most part.
Jill seems sweet. Jill seems like maybe she was just caught up in a bad situation, you know?
Maybe.
You're an au pair. The mom's kind of mean to her. She's like very Dom energy with this like employee.
She is banging her secretary. Yeah.
She is her kid's nanny. That's like still like it's not nice. That nanny's supposed to be watching your kid.
Yeah, not scissoring with you in the living room or whatever.
I had a fun fact that I found.
Video chatting.
That made me hate Jill when she was doing the video chat because the faces she was making. I was like, this is so stupid. I hate
Also,
this
was very
character.
As a duo, they were just horrible. Like one's in the kid's room with the kid half naked, and the other is with the husband in the bed next to them. I'm like, no, you're just bad.
Y'all are shit people.
Sorry, we could go back because
and then the dad is just this sort of like limp cuck who's like, I'm gonna catch you in the act and take your daughter away. I put a camera in Chucky. Wait, what? Hold on. How did Chucky allow this?
I think Chucky liked it. I think he's like, you're gonna see
Chucky.
me.
Yeah, Chucky was like, lower. Put it lower.
I found an interesting fact that says that Don Mancini wanted this film to feel like a mystery horror movie where Chucky's identity as the killer is slowly revealed. And I think they did a pretty good job at like, maybe that's why he moves around so much. They wanted to give that
he wanted
feeling.
it to also feel like an entry level Chucky for people who've never seen Chucky. They could go into this.
It had been like 12 years since a Chucky movie at this point, right?
I don't know.
What year?
I don't think it was that long.
No, I think it was. Oh gosh, I don't remember.
I think Seed was 2003, so 10 years.
2004, so it's been a decade. Yeah,
wow.
Just about.
But this one also felt like, and maybe like it could have been any killer. It didn't have to be Chucky, and it would have just slotted straight into this.
That's kind of my issue with it is that it is a Chucky movie. So if you go into a Chucky movie and don't realize that Chucky's going to be the killer, then I don't know. You have to be an alien or something, you know? Like, how would you not
I just
know?
mean the way that the movie. I mean, from the people's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mystery. It's the mystery horror to them, not to us.
No, yeah, I agree.
It's being solely unraveled.
The movie is not trying to hide it either.
No, Chucky is the most colorful thing in this very
like,
drab black.
Even
home.
that really kind of cool shot at the beginning of like when it's panning back from her on the phone with the police and like there's so much blood, and then it like pulls back and reveals Chucky on the chair, and then we have like the curse of like like and then Chucky's name, and then it does a cool sort of pan around, and it's now daytime or whatever, and it's a different day. I'm like, this is some good, for an $8 million movie, and for somebody who's not really known for their impressive cinematography, there's some really good shots going on and creative stuff, and you see more of it in the TV show as well. So I think that he's kind of finding his creativity in terms
it's
of
considerably
camera.
less than 8 million. We'll get to that.
I
Sorry,
wonder if he did
5
like
million.
what he did between, like if he did new movies in the 10 years between, and like maybe that helped kind of influence whatever like cinematography pieces that he added to this or kind of focused on here.
According to the notes, according to what I found, this movie was made for $2.8 million.
No, it was 5 million.
Are you sure?
Yes, I watched a comprehensive rundown of the movie today. That might be how much it made. That would make sense to me.
Well, I don't.
Or
I didn't
direct
want
to streaming
the
too.
end.
Yeah.
Okay, possibly. I didn't want to spoil because the MPAA game has like a new element to it that is basically you get an extra guess by saying what the gross is. The
thing is, Jason, is it's very hard for me to look up the budget of the movie without it telling me also what the movie made. That's why
absolutely
that's why this game is like designed to someone else has to look up the
for
budget.
me. I get to just guess and be very wrong.
But I thought what I found, what I looked up and found was that it had a $2.8 million budget and made $3.8 million. But if that's not the case, I'd like to know what the actual numbers are.
The budget for the movie is $5 million. This is according to the Wikipedia page, but also the video that I watched today. And then I also watched a kill count video today where he did a breakdown of all the budgets for all the Chucky movies. And that was also 5 million. So that's 3 different sources that I have 5 million.
Okay, fair. That's fine. But how much did it make?
I don't know how much it made. I don't have that information here in front of me. So
okay,
it is safe for today.
But I don't know. I don't know because the gross box office that I have might be wrong now.
Right. I know how much it made on its opening at the festivals and stuff that it made, but I don't know. Gross, I don't know. Okay, sorry, domestically it grossed $3.8 million in the first month, in the first month.
Correct.
Yeah.
So remember that. Meaning we're not going to do that. We're just going to do the regular game. Right. So suspicious things are happening. Yep. Thanks, Chuck.
We could just guess how many Chucky dolls it takes to do a Chucky movie.
Yep. Like, keep spoiling it. Chucky's moving around the house mysteriously. Nika's concerns are being dismissed by others. Is what sort of happens around this point as well.
You would look a little crazy saying, "Stay away from the doll." Like the doll's evil. Like no one's gonna.
That's the crutch. That's the conceit of every single Chucky movie. It's like the doll's killing, and they're like, "That's ridiculous." Like we have evidence of this doll killing in other cities. It's like
it's also like every horror movie that ends with a house full of people except for 1 or 2 people, and then the police show up. It's like, what did they tell the police? Chucky has always taken care of those loose ends, either in sequels or right at the end of the movie, which I really appreciate. At the end of this movie, the cops show up and she's holding a bloody knife, and they're like, "What the fuck happened here?" And then it hard cuts to her being in a courtroom being sentenced to
and she's a little crazy.
Yeah, and she has lost her mind.
To sort of outline how shitty Barb is, when the power goes out, Nika gets stuck on the elevator and she's yelling out to like, "Somebody help me." And Barb goes, "It's always something with her."
Yeah.
Well, she's too
power's out.
She's about to bang the au pair. She's like, "I don't want to go help my sister in an elevator." Like
Jesus. We'll just leave her in the elevator for 15 minutes. We can do it in 15 minutes, right? Yeah, she seems like a really shitty sister. Like she's not there because her mom died. She's there because she's trying to convince her sister to sell the house so that she can cover her financial woes or whatever's going on, right? And she's cheating on her husband, who she seems to not like.
She's pretty mean to him.
Yeah, and I mean he's not necessarily mean to anybody. He just seems like an idiot, kind of. Like I don't know what his job was before print started to die. I assume he was a paper boy, maybe. He was on the corners being extra, read off. Like nobody does this anymore. I gotta go
because
work
if
at
he was like a
Starbucks.
reporter or anything, like you just switch to, I don't know what the opposite of print, like online.
You can still be a journalist.
Yeah, there we go.
Online, reporting. But I don't know. He seems like he's nice.
Maybe they printed newspapers. Maybe they physically printed them out, and now
yeah.
they're just cut to like 2% of
You
what
get
they
a job
were.
at a print museum, being like one of those
Print
people.
books.
I just looked this guy up, the guy that plays Ian, and most of his roles are in Hallmark movies. He does kind of have a Hallmark face.
Yeah, but I mean, so was Mika, right? Like Fiona Dourif, also a Hallmark movie person for a little while there. Like I always say, you got to start somewhere, and sometimes you get stuck into the Hallmark hell, I guess.
Hallmarks and soap operas.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not great, but he's not terrible either. He has a lot of, he's got that really corny energy.
He's like doofy. Like
he seems like the kind of dad that would say he's babysitting his kid when he's watching him or her, you know?
Yeah, right.
That's the vibe I get.
or at the very least, other people would say that to him and he wouldn't make a stink about it.
Yeah.
He would laugh and agree. But like all of his lines, but he's also sort of like encapsulating the idea of like he knows what movie he's in and he's doing exactly what he needs to in order for us to not hate his character, but also not like his character, because he's gonna die. But you know, they even give him a little bit of a moment near the end to have heroics inside of him, which he squanders.
I was gonna say.
They give him the
Fair,
opportunity.
he does exactly what I think anyone would do in that situation. I'd also be like,
let's get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd tie someone. I mean, maybe if I thought they were going to kill me.
But he also tries to save her, right? Like he picks her up. He sees that everyone's dead. He doesn't fuck around for too long being like, we got to figure this out. He's like, let's get out of here.
Yeah. No, she's like, let's leave the daughter. And then they do.
Yeah. She's probably fine. But yeah, I mean, if somebody, like you guys were saying, if somebody told you that a doll was killing everybody, I think you would immediately be like, this lady has lost her fucking mind. Do you have any duct tape?
That's when you sit there and be like, is the doll here right now?
Yeah, is the doll in this room?
Yeah. Doll in the room with us right now. Show me on the alleged doll where the doll cut your leg.
Show me on the doll where the doll is.
We do get a bit of a foreshadow because he takes a swipe at her leg and she doesn't feel it. This is before he like fully cuts her later in the movie. That's just to kind of show that she can't feel anything from the waist down, which I thought was an interesting way. I'm still all in at this point on them foreshadowing stuff. But there's
are you still at this point being like, when's she gonna get to the insane asylum?
Yeah. No, actually, when she goes flying, a little bit of a spoiler for like later in the movie, when she goes flying off the banister and she like dies but doesn't actually die, and then there's still like 20 minutes left in the movie, I was like, oh, now it's gonna go to the insane asylum.
She's gonna wake up in the crazy house.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's gonna be there, ready to stab.
I'm just like obsessed with the idea that you were watching this obsessively waiting for the fireworks factory, like in the Poochie episode of Itchy and Scratchy or whatever. You're like, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory?
Which it kind of happens in Madam Web. There's a fireworks factory in that.
Oh, really? Did they mention it in the first 5 minutes and they just take the whole movie to get to it?
Yes. Not in the first 5 minutes, but there's a thing that happens outside of it, unrelated. And they're like, that's a fireworks factory. The building is unstable. And they're like, why'd you say that?
Wait, what? Are you serious?
You haven't seen Madam Web? Oh my God.
I haven't seen
it.
Madam Web.
It's on Disney Plus. Or no, Crave. It's one of them.
I've seen it 3 times. I watched it once for a podcast, then I watched it once by myself, then I watched it once for a podcast, and I watched it a third time on mushrooms just to see it adds anything.
To see what?
Steven, when you see a part in a movie and you're like, this is so dumb, why are they shoehorning this in here? And then you're like, oh, this is gonna come back at the end and like save somebody in some stupid way. It's exactly what happens, and I had to turn it off. I'm like, no, I'm done. Like I think the
just the last thing I want to say about that movie is the worst line in that movie is she flies into the water, and then we get the stupid like she's learning her powers. When she comes back up, Adam Scott goes, "What the hell happened down there?" Which it's like she went down there and like drowned.
I didn't even know he was in
drown.
that movie.
He is.
Yeah, he's Ben Parker.
He's Uncle Ben.
He plays Ben Parker,
He's so
like
cute.
a young Ben Parker, like before Peter's around.
Yeah, this is canonically a Spider-Man movie.
All right, I'm not saying I'll never watch it. I'm just saying I've never had any reason to. So
Just be prepared. It took me 3 sittings, so I think it's just like
I don't even
throw
really
it on
care
when you're busy with something else. Maybe you're cooking. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I don't have Disney anymore, so like a lot of the MCU stuff in the last few years I've missed out on because I haven't really had Disney, or like if I do, I'll go with Jason to go see it in the theater. But like I don't have
it's
a draw.
Sony. It's a Sony movie. It's like Morbius. It's not even.
Yeah,
I know.
It's on Crave, I think.
Yeah, I think it's.
I'm
I think
aware.
It's Paramount.
What I mean
also,
to say is superhero movies in general, I haven't really felt the drive that I did maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, where I was really excited for all these comic books that I've loved to be final. I'm like, Ultron's gonna be in a movie. This is amazing. It's really worn off on me now, where I'm like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And it's kind of almost feels like a chore and a real task for me to get through some of them.
A lot of them have the same formula, so you're just kind of like, I feel like I've seen this now.
I was excited for Deadpool and Wolverine, and we went to go see it, and I was like, they warned us, like Deadpool right at the beginning of the movie is like, all right, this is going to be a Marvel movie, guys, get ready. And then you're watching it and you're like, oh, he wasn't lying. This is just another Marvel movie. Got it. Thank you, Deadpool. See you next time.
What about Chucky Pool? Because Chucky does look at the camera a couple times, but then it pans over to him looking at something. But every time they do this a couple times in the movie where he looks right at the camera, but he's not. I'm like, Chucky's kind of feels like he's talking to the audience when he does stuff.
Yeah,
because we all know we're all cheering for him. It's a happy. This movie is a happy ending for Chucky.
Trying to wear.
You do cheer for Chucky. You do. You're like, oh, go stab that person. Ooh, what's he gonna do to this girl? That you're just, I don't know.
That's why
the electrocution was meh.
It was meh, but it was also like, I think maybe it was poorly acted. I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about that actor because I don't think that she was particularly bad, but like, I wasn't getting she's being electrocuted here. She didn't go over the top enough, She was just going like act like you're cold. Yeah. But
I was thinking that too, and I was wondering if it was a choice by Don Mancini to have it be a little bit more subtle to make it scarier. Just to have her,
like, you know what? Go full Marv from this Home Alone 2 or whatever, when he briefly turns into a skeleton.
We'll talk. You'll hear what we mean when we play the plug, the new plug button that you made. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I will just say one thing. I don't know if we're on the death of this babysitter yet, au pair, but I was very upset that she died in her underwear. I thought that was silly and unnecessary. It's like, why did she have to strip down?
You gotta have a little bit of nudity in a horror movie
because she was sexting with her girlfriend or whatever. They're gonna have some. I mean, the other thing that's wild is that dad is asleep, daughter is asleep. They're in a giant mansion. They could just go fuck in a room randomly.
They could go to the bathroom. Like, I don't understand. They could be in the elevator. No one would know.
Yeah.
We are
hours out. Go in the elevator. No one's gonna use it.
Just before we continue to talk about this scene, I want to. The only thing that we skipped is the fact that it's revealed that Nika's like, where did this doll come from? And it came from evidence lockup, which is like the first time that you're like, oh, this is in the canon of everything.
Because he was purposefully sent there, like Tatiana kind of you sort of hinted at that maybe he sent himself, which is possible, but I think the end of the movie really posits that it was probably Tiffany that did it.
Well, also, but if it came from evidence lockup, I think we also knew that like potentially there was a dirty cop involved.
Yeah,
that's true. Because he's like, let me get, as long as I get paid or whatever.
But it's also the exact same scene from The Bride of Chucky. I don't know if you guys noticed that, where he's got him in an evidence bag. He throws him in the car in the passenger
seat. When she says they never learn,
and then he calls, but he says the exact same line, like, "Yeah, I'm on my way, but don't forget to have my money here," or whatever, and then gets his throat slit. It's like the exact same. Which makes me laugh because I'm like, how many other vendettas has Chucky had over the years between these two? Where he just gets He just gets Tiffany to like go around and kill cops and like, all right, now mail me to Timbuktu, please.
Do you think he enjoys being mailed? Like, you think it's a nice meditation time for him?
Yeah,
Or do you think he's just there plotting how he's going to do everything?
He lies there, he closes his eyes, and he goes, Ade Due Dimbala. Give me the power, I beg of you.
I think about this a lot when I'm watching Chucky. I think Chucky has the ability to go to sleep in a way that's like he turns completely off, but he's like shaken out of it if something happens to him. Like, I think that Chucky could,
or a vampire.
Yeah, like I think Chucky could be put on a shelf for like 100 years. If he's not disturbed, he'll come to and be like, "What year is it?"
Right.
That's my actually
taking it in, and then when he's like, "Oh wow, just a butt to stab," he just jumps out.
Or it's like, you know, when you're
my theory. Sorry.
I was gonna say, you know, when like you're falling asleep on the couch and you start to dream, but the audio is still playing of the movie, so that what you're hearing and what you're dreaming are sort of like turning into this knot. And like, even if it's a movie you've seen a million times, the dream you're having will not necessarily be what you're watching on the screen. It'll turn into this sort of like new thing. Maybe that's how Chucky goes through when he's in his meditation mode.
Is that description based off the TikTok of the guy who's like, I know everything about Metal Gear Solid because I fell asleep watching a Metal Gear Solid lore video?
It's not.
I didn't send that to you? Okay.
You might have, but sometimes I accidentally press back when I'm watching your 100 videos you sent me, and then I'll be like, well, there's 70 videos I'm never going to watch now.
Yeah, I figured. I know who watches all of them, and his name is Cam.
Well, I think his Cam, like throughout the day, will catch up on the ones you've given him, whereas like I usually will listen to them all in like one big long lore dump, where like I'll be like, all right, I've got time before bed. I'm gonna watch 900 videos that Jason has sent me over the past 3 days.
But also our For You pages are the same, pretty much. Yeah. We send each other the same TikToks. Like,
sometimes I'll go through and it'll be like a video and then the same video and then a video and the same video, and it's because we're just on TikTok at the same time seeing the same thing.
Chucky on the move, half naked woman stab. Andy mentioned at some point during this.
Andy is mentioned because she also is looking up who Charles Lee Ray is on the computer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or she looks up the good guy dolls because everybody was talking, like the priest at the table is like, don't I remember from the 80s seeing him on the news or something? And then the other guy's like, they were huge in the 80s. The 80s was fucking wild.
My brother had one. Yeah. But she's like good guy doll murder or good guy dolls crime. I can't remember what she Googles, but then it's just like Andy
evidence lockup, which I thought was a funny Google search.
Or just good guy dolls evidence, maybe something like that. Or just like, why did it end up there?
All unsolved murders having to do with good guy doll.
Yeah. But she learns about Andy and how Andy blamed the doll for the murder of his mom, or was it his mom?
A lot of his family. Yeah, because he ends up in foster care, and then his foster family also gets
right. Yeah. And then he gets adopted by the girl at the end of the second movie. And then, and then he goes into military school in the third one, and then
to protect himself. That actually really drives. Like, that makes sense to me.
And then he's gone in the fifth one or the fourth one. This is his return, which is pretty cool. I don't know, like it's a thing that should not get me as excited as it does. Is that like Andy shows up as a full-grown man, but he has like seemingly a normal life. He lives in an apartment. He's not living in Slava. He doesn't seem to be addicted to drugs or alcohol or anything, but he's like just living his life, and he gets a package and immediately knows, like, anytime I've gotten a package over the last 30 years, I've always pointed a shotgun at it just in case.
Mm-hmm. If it's Chucky shaped.
Yeah, this is a good guy sized box.
The shoe box. I shoot it.
Did you guys notice that I'm pretty sure, to answer your question from earlier, Tatiana, also how many Chuckies did they make for this movie? I think they made a crawling Chucky doll for the sequence where they're on the screen with each other. And we just she's sitting on the edge of the bed, and we see the back of the bed, and there's just like a Chucky scurries under the bed.
I thought they paid a kid. To do it.
They do have a full-on kid walking down the stairs from that top view later.
No, it's not a kid; it's a little person, and she's been playing Chucky for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
I thought they just got the daughter. I thought they just got Alice to be like, just up like Chucky and do a scene.
But she's also there was a deleted scene from The Seed of Chucky. You know how they're making like a Chucky movie in that movie, where like she is playing Tiffany from like the long shots, like she's like Tiffany's stunt performer, and she's like, you know, dressed up as Tiffany and then gets killed by Tiffany, which is, it's a fun scene, but it was removed from the theatrical, so I guess we never saw it.
It's like the least Simpson. That's like the old bald dude character, little person.
Yeah,
in Simpsons. It's like, hey, playing it.
No, it's like he's like,
Please don't tell anybody I can't get
Yeah.
back to this country.
yeah. Yeah.
But the mom and the sitter are getting weird on video, which made everybody feel uncomfortable.
The kid was in the next bed. Also, why is the au pair sleeping
Yeah.
in the room with the little girl? It doesn't really make sense to me still. Big house. I'm sure there's a different room.
They were one room apart, is what I thought. Chucky does pop up on screen the second Barb like looks away. She like takes her ring off or something. And
She like
pop
doesn't
up
want to
in the
wear her
background.
ring when she video sex cheats, but that her husband is in the bed next to her. It's just a really
sex cheats.
like
Yeah.
keep your ring on. You're like, it's done.
Maybe she doesn't like to have her ring on when she's finger blasting herself.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, she's gonna flick that bean and then she's gonna take that ring off. Sorry, that got gross.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. I was just appalled. That's when my
agree,
notes
yeah.
stopped for this movie, because I was just like, the video call.
Yeah, you're
They-
like,
what's
there's like,
also
why am I
really-
even writing these comprehensive notes?
fuck?
None of this makes any fucking sense. Yeah.
What's also really gross about it is when they see Barb sees shadows in the background and assumes it's Alice. So she's like,
Yeah,
Alice
she's
is
like,
up.
Alice
Like,
is up.
yeah, we got to stop. And Chucky does the big reveal to Jill, and then he's holding a knife above his head like this, and then he kicks over the water that
Raining
has the
water.
dripping water from the leak onto some electricity, and then
Some loose wires. No, it's like
Some
where
loose-
the
yeah.
laptop.
Like a plug on the
is
floor
plugged
with
in.
the yeah.
and she fries, and her eye melts in a really interesting way.
And everything
Um,
flickers, so then Barb can't even see it fully.
I mean, it's one of those deaths where you just want it to be better than it is.
Yeah.
But good in conceit, because I like the fact that it's a crazy thunderstormy night in a haunted house. And of course you would put buckets down everywhere for the leaky roof
True.
in your manor home.
It's an interesting kill if it was like done better, I think.
I
It's just
agree.
also the
Yeah,
first
completely.
two kills like weren't stabs. Like, it's just the first two kills were all very like separate, which felt kind of like
Yeah. Well,
blah,
he
I
was,
don't know.
yeah, and you would think he'd want to get some aggression out because he's so pissed off that he missed his sweet poisoning kill, where he's like, God damn it.
The last time he stabbed was the mom, and it didn't. It
Yeah.
just, you know what? Maybe that was incredibly satisfying for him. That was like how many years in the waiting.
It's true,
Like,
yeah.
finally.
I wrote, that's not how electricity works, because I'd like to see the Mythbusters like try to see if they can, you know.
Oh,
move
I'm sure
electricity
they've
like
done
that.
something similar. I think they've done like horror movie like series and stuff in the past.
Yeah.
I did want to speak a little bit. I have like it doesn't really have much to do with what we're talking about in the immediate moment, but like I was thinking about, you know, the multiverse and like the Marvel movies as we were talking about them briefly. And I'm like, don't you just think that these tired franchises, you know, they did Freddy versus Jason, like, why haven't they gone back to that well for a bit?
Give me a Chucky versus like a. Oh my gosh, I love
Chucky versus anybody.
I
Imagine like
love
this
combo movies.
Chucky versus Leatherface.
No, imagine like the shitty Scream killers like going on there, because the Scream killers are always just regular
Just
idiots.
teenagers. It's just
Yeah.
like horny teenagers. Yeah.
So like
that's-
imagine they decided to fuck with somebody that Chucky had already decided he was gonna kill, and he's like, listen, I've been trying to figure out how to take these teens down for a long time, and you're fucking my plans up over here.
I
And, like,
respect the game,
yeah,
but don't fuck with my kill.
don't fuck with the Chuck. Yeah, and then he like then he has to kill the Scream killers just because he wants to kill the people that the Scream killers are trying to
Okay,
kill.
but what would the funniest duo be? Like Chucky versus it's gross, but Chucky versus Freddy. Like
Mhm.
they're hanging out with kids for very particular reasons.
Yeah, Chucky's like, I like just hanging around with
Yeah,
you. I don't like
don't do
doing what
this.
you do.
Make me
to
feel youthful,
Yeah.
and also I can put my spirit and my soul into them with a voodoo curse.
And
Why
Freddy's
does he
just
want
like,
to be a kid?
I just
so
like looking
bad?
at them naked. You're like, oh, God.
Depending on who directs the movie.
Oh my god! Oh no, because Jigsaw is technically not the puppet, but that'd be funny.
I think that Chucky could easily interact with any of them, and it would be funny. Like if you take the Chucky that we like from like the Bride and Seed movie and the show, I think I do like the idea of him killing the shittier
What
lower tier
about-
villains of Scream. That's a kind of a
What
funny
about-
idea.
That's very funny.
What
Because
about
they're
a
not power or
Chucky?
magical or anything.
And there's also
right?
multiples of them, so he would be able to kill a couple of them. Yeah.
What about a Chucky Jason team up? That it's just like Chucky cannot just like he's like, I like your style, but like you got to communicate with me on what you're doing.
Or like
just the ones
that'd
that
be
don't
funny.
talk to him back, like what is it,
Yeah.
like Leatherface and stuff too.
I mean, we could also discover that
Michael Myers.
Camp Crystal Lake has some sort of other amulet at the bottom of the lake, and that's why Jason keeps coming back from the bottom of the lake or whatever.
There's another amulet, and it's sunk to the bottom of Crystal Lake, and I need to get it. It's the other half of the Damballa amulet that I use to go into the bodies of children.
We combo the combos. It's like Chucky versus Predator.
Oh my god!
I'd watch this
I'd
shit.
watch it.
But
Imagine Chucky, like
versus
the end of the
Predator.
movie, Chucky just getting blown up by like the shoulder cannon of a
Yeah.
predator.
Chucky wouldn't have a heat signature. He'd actually be able to hide.
Oh,
so like
true.
I
Hey,
do
that's pretty
think
good.
Actually,
could
I don't know
play
if
this
that's
out.
true because in the Bride and Seed, when the technician goes to look, he's got like human organs inside.
oh
of him
yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
creepy. I didn't like that.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing with Chucky's face when he's all torn apart. You can see like his,
He's like
you
sewed
know,
up
his
actually.
He's
epidermis.
organic. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
then-
Oh, this is a funny one. Chucky versus the Exorcist.
Oh my god.
I mean, he's a possessed doll versus a possessed human being. Yeah.
And the priest that comes is
like,
just
So
has
what do they
no
call
idea
you
what-
anyway? It's like, I am Pazuzu.
I'm literally
Pazuzu?
Satan.
Oh my god, but maybe they have like he's got his who's he working with to get his soul?
Damballa.
Damballa. Maybe they like they're buddies.
Oh, Pazuzu and Damballa.
Yeah,
are
we
working
don't
together? Yeah. In the demon realm.
No,
Oh,
it's
Brad
just
Dourif
Exorcist
was
too.
in.
Brad
Yeah,
Dourif.
he plays the guy who's like the murderer or whatever in jail, but he also is like connected to the demon world.
He just plays Charles Lee Ray in that movie.
He is kind of Charles Lee Ray in that movie. You know, we should do that. There's not dolls in it, but if you want to come back for it, Tatiana, The Exorcist 3 is an excellent movie.
I would love to. Chucky and the Exorcist would end in a romance. I think that they'd be like, wow, they'd hold hands. Actually, but then his girlfriend. I think Jennifer Tilly's jealous. She's a jealous lady.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd
They
handle
have
that well.
they have an endless love for one another. Chucky does say a great line. Women can't live with them. Period.
Period.
Yeah. He does say
was
that.
like,
He
yeah.
is a sexist
Yeah.
asshole. All the
The
men at
anti-feminist-
their home
the
watching
anti-feminist,
Netflix
yeah.
cheered.
Everyone's giggling. Can't live with them. Period.
Mhm.
That's such a fucking 80s joke. Like they had such an opportunity to write Chucky funny still, and he's just like not the same Chucky. He's like lost his mojo or something.
Yeah.
The last two movies were straight
It
comedies.
could also be that
you
this
know?
one's like a little closer to home, right? Like maybe he's just more serious
Yeah.
because he's like, this is what put me in this situation to begin
That's
with.
true. Yeah. I never
Like
really
maybe
considered
it's a little
that.
bit more focused in this.
He's like, I try to take care of loose ends where I can, but this is what I really need to take care of. Priorities, Tiffany. Mail me to Winnipeg, Canada.
But not in the
Nobody wants to go to
winter.
Winnipeg. Yeah. Nobody wants to go to Winnipeg, Chucky.
Yeah. I mean, I
Tilly
can't.
is the one true love.
I do think that Chucky would be really fun in a crossover, and I think that just doing some sort of weird crossover thing would be fun because I did love Freddy versus Jason, and they found
Yeah.
a way to make it make sense. You know, like
Mhm.
Every town
And-
has an Elm Street.
but it's
I remember in the 90s, Freddy versus Jason and Alien versus Predator, they made both of those, but there was also other stuff where like Predator versus Terminator, was like a comic book, which I thought would be a cool thing.
I mean, in comic book terms, all of it has already been done.
all of it has
Yeah.
been made.
I feel like
But
it's just fun to kind of make it like a little thought experiment, Like if this person
Yeah,
went
yeah.
against this, like what do we think would happen? It's
There's
just fun to
this-
think about.
Yeah, there's this artist that I follow, and I'm struggling to remember who it is, and I feel shitty about that because he's really good, but he made this sort of like very like landscape proportioned battle of just all of these sort of iconic horror villains, and they're all having like a Super Smash Brothers style fight, and it's like it's beautiful, and it's like so well illustrated in it, and like it really just gets your imagination going, like, oh man, not necessarily of like who would win, but just like I just would love to watch them fight. Like it would be so fun to watch them have a battle, and like how would you tell those stories? Because a lot of the
Put
time
them all in a really giant haunted mansion and just let them have their fun. It's like
Right,
what is it, the Trader Show, but like not.
so Jigsaw puts it together. He's like,
Okay, so I've put together a game. Is
Also
everybody available
hilarious
on
when they
October
think
31st?
Okay, I've got it. I've got a good plot. So Batman has fought the Predator. Okay. Batman has fought the Ninja Turtles. Okay. And Batman has a villain called the Mad Hatter who has a puppet. The Mad Hatter
does
puppet,
not have a puppet.
or not the Mad Hatter. You know,
Scarface.
the
You're talking about
Scarface.
Yeah.
Scarface puppet dies. Scarface creator gets the Chucky doll, and we get Batman versus Chucky.
Okay.
I think Chucky could do it. Batman's house is too big.
Chucky
There's so
would be
many
like,
places for
Get
Chucky
your
to
hand
hide.
away from my
Yeah,
ass.
exactly. He immediately kills the guy who is Scarface, really, the ventriloquist. And then Batman just has to figure out how to take down a living
It's
doll.
just Batman versus Chucky.
Yeah.
Batman tries
He
all these
killed
gadgets. Chucky's
the
just
Scarface doll gets destroyed, and then the Scarface villain gets Chucky, and then Chucky kills that guy, and then it's Batman versus Chucky. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
I just think it's like, you know how there's a lot of talking about Marvel earlier, like a lot of team ups where like, ooh, we need to see these people work together and these people work together. Give me just like a team of like, I don't care about the DC villains together. I want actual horror movie villains together and just unleash them on a town, because I think that town is fucked.
The thing is like when you go into that level, you have to have sort of like the boss of like who is organizing this and why and how, right? Like, would it be someone like the Wishmaster or like the fucking like the Hellraiser, like, you know, the Leviathan, the Leviathan from Hellraiser.
Classic villains, classic horror movie guys, like the Grimoire Familiar Killers versus Pinhead and 3 or 4 famous Cenobites, like the woman Cenobite.
Cenobites win every time. They
can conjure hell.
They can conjure chains out of the darkness to rip your skin off.
Too many of these ones don't really like run. Like I can't get behind a serial killer that just like walks places, because I'm like, I just feel like you're moving too slow. You're really counting on this dumb girl to fall over and like not get up to crawl away.
Like canonically can just like move way too fast. Whether it be Michael Myers driving a car perfectly.
Michael Myers is just a human who can't die for some reason.
Yeah,
but Jason Voorhees has
like he has magic powers.
If you use the video game as canon, then he can turn into mist and like and like fly through the forest and appear behind you.
Also, Steven, I did not realize your hat was a pumpkin.
Yeah, it's Halloween month.
It is amazing.
Bing,
a little knit pumpkin hat.
Yes, I bought this in Prince Edward County from an old woman who, when I turned around, her stall was gone, and I was like, "What the?"
Ding 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 ding. Dun, 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 dun,
I feel like we've gone so off track. Girl dies.
I'll tell you. The dad knows. She tries to turn it on him. He has nanny cam footage.
I honestly gained respect for him.
Chucky?
I was like,
smart Chucky.
Shh, you're both talking at the same time.
Sorry, I got excited.
So did I. Go ahead, Tatiana. I didn't.
No, I
just always goes first.
You're doing the summary. I just liked what the dad did. I was like, this is the first moment I felt like slight respect towards you.
The dad?
Yeah, because he's like, listen, there's a nanny cam.
Oh yeah, this is where he's like, I'm not just a floppy cuck. I know what's going on. I put a camera inside the creepy doll, and for some reason, every time I moved the camera around, he went, "Oh yeah,
yeah. Put it deeper.
Wanna play?
Wanna play?" And then I was like, "Is it going to like play in somewhere?" Because a Chucky cyborg Chucky with a fucking camera in one of his eyes is like funny to me. I think they do actually end up using it as a segment, which I thought was great. But the police are now involved. We get that scene where they get the call about what's going on. So he turns around. I guess he's headed to the house because it's all happening in one night. We won't know for sure until we cook his blood, which is a weird line. Does that mean we have to get Chucky's blood, or we have to analyze the priest's blood?
I think that's probably just like a term that they probably looked up, like when they were like making the movie. They're like, is there like a thing that people say like we got to cook the blood for to see if he's got alcohol in his bloodstream or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right.
But like, yeah, I don't think they're like, we need to make a concoction out of this priest's blood. I don't think.
No. What I meant was, what I thought that they knew that Chucky was like a murderer. Like I thought they were talking about Chucky, but now talking with you guys now, I realized that they were getting a toxicology report.
Yeah.
On the father.
It's probably just some sort of like term that's used in that industry that us
We don't
laymen
know.
or we're not. They were probably watching like NCU or whatever. One of those fucking shows.
NCIS.
Yeah.
CSI.
Special Victims.
CSI. Yeah.
Miami. I think there's other ones. New York.
There's one in every city. I think there's one in Toronto now, isn't it? Didn't they just make one recently, or they're filming one that's like where it's like the CN Tower.
I think you're right. I think they might be making an SVU Toronto.
Okay, you know what though? I would
good.
love to be like a dead body or victim in one of those shows.
I
Like
mean,
I think
it's
we'd have a
here.
lot of fun.
That's where Ridley what's her name? What's her name?
Sigourney Weaver?
No, why did I say it that way?
I heard you say Ridley.
Oh, is it
Daisy
Yeah.
Ridley, yeah.
Oh, Daisy Ridley, yeah.
She started her career starting move was corpse on TV show, where she was just
Yeah.
a corpse, yeah.
Well, it's also funny to see how many celebrities were on like a CSI or Criminal Minds or something. It's just
Yeah.
like
Do you know Daisy
sister of victim.
So I watched a bunch of The Toast of London, and Daisy Ridley appears in that as like an unnamed character as well, which I guess she just was on stuff. She did the traditional way.
Just as we say, you got to start. Everybody's got to start somewhere, whether it be the Toast of London or a corpse on CSI.
Unnamed corpse.
Yeah.
Barb is the fucking worst. So this is the sequence where she's up kind of in the attic or something. She's snooping around, discovering Chucky's alive. She peels back part of his face, revealing the scars.
This is the best
Chucky springs to life and stabs her in the fucking eye, which made the jump scare of him coming to life. I was reeling from that, and the stab to the eye didn't affect me because I was like, my heart was palpitating.
I love the fact that, because like when I first saw this, I was like, why is Chucky fine? Like he got chopped up a billion times in all the other movies, and all the other times we see him, he's all fucked up and like limping around, and his face is held together by staples. Why does he look fine? And then as soon as he starts like peeling the bits off and reveal, I was like, this is sick. It's like a like a Mission Impossible, or like like it's a truly good reveal that I remember not expecting. And then that was like the one part in the movie that I was like, this is making me really excited that he's still all fucked up underneath. And and then my, they don't explain it in the movie, but in my imagination, I'm imagining Chucky like sitting in front of one of those like Hollywood mirrors with like all the lights. And he's like, nah, it doesn't look right. It's not flush over here. Tiff, bring me some of that flesh colored paint. And he just like
he's watching like a YouTube video about how to do prosthetics. Like
he's watching a Don Mancini YouTube video.
How does Don Mancini do it in his movies?
It was legitimately a good twist in this movie when she starts pulling the stuff off of his face, because like Steve said, I was getting like excited realizing how much in the lore of the rest of the movies this is, because still up till now I'm going, yeah, they're explaining it a little bit, but he doesn't like, what is wrong with Chucky's face? Why does he look so pristine? But I really like the idea of what you said, of like he took some time in the evidence lockup. He found some putty.
He found some other Chucky heads from like like all the other murders he committed in those good guy factories.
Like
and
that,
he's like,
that
bring me some of
blob
that,
ooze from like the second one.
yeah.
He's like, just bring it down, melt it down. We'll rub it on my face gaps, and we'll see what happens. Come on, Tiff, help me out over here.
You're in the
And
movie business.
Tim has a good question here. Do you think this movie would have done better in a theater
In 2000
instead of being
It's
like
hard
just
to
straight
say.
video?
I think enough time went by that the answer could be yes or no. I think that the reason it didn't is because they didn't believe in it. So I don't think that it would have got enough advertising in order to warrant any kind of expectations for a good release. But I do think that Chucky has sort of a loyal legion of fans that have existed since the 80s.
It's true, but the
And it
thing
gets-
is like with 9 years, this is almost a Lego sequel at this point. Like it's not 25 years or 20 years, but it's still 9 years between movies is a huge chunk of time to go by for somebody to say, you know who needs to come back? We need to make a Chucky movie.
Yeah.
Would this have been
This is a
early
Lego sequel
Shudder?
before even the conception of Lego sequels were a thing.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Where they weren't even. It started out as the idea of a reboot, where we're going to reboot it, but we're going to use all the main players, and we're going to have Dourif back, and like we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of Chucky. Because that's what people like. And we know that if we replace Brad Dourif with someone else, and if we do all these hard turns in the franchise, it's not really going to work. And then they abandoned that idea because they're like, no, let's just make sort of a reimagining, but then still respect the people that are coming from before. Like we'll tell a new story for new people, but we want to make sure that the people who are coming because that they love the first one all the way up until Seed are still gonna get something out of it. I think it's a smart way to do it.
Like half of this movie feels like it's a reboot, and then the second he pulls that stuff off of his face, well, they give you a breadcrumb trail a little bit, but the second he pulls that and you see the actual face, it looks so much like the last movie. It's undeniable that now we're back in the Chucky verse. We're back in the Child's Play verse. I really liked the way that they did this. I think that if this movie had been put in theaters, it might have been a flop because people were like, why? Would have been like, why? I think you kind of have to release something like this.
If this was in theaters, I would have definitely watched it. Is what I think.
I think if they advertise it as like Chucky is back, like Chucky never dies, something like that. Like I think a huge chunk of people would have seen it because I don't know, like the first 5, whatever, however many of those you may have watched, like they are really fun. I think what might have happened is people would have come in expecting a certain thing and then maybe been disappointed after the fact, which maybe wouldn't have been super great for the.
Because the Aubrey Plaza Chucky movie has no connections. Basically a remake of the first movie, right?
Yeah,
from what I understand.
It is 100%. I mean,
It's
it's
a
not a
weird
bad
one.
movie. We talked about this the other night, actually, Tatiana. Like, it's not a bad movie, in my opinion, but it is a bad Chucky movie. Like, it's not a Chucky movie. It's a completely different idea. There's no magic. There's no serial killer. All the things that make Chucky interesting to me is abandoned, and they've replaced it with what if AI got smart, and it's more like a Megan, basically. I don't know if you've seen
because
Megan.
we've talked about a bit. Me and Steve have talked about when we're trying to come up with a month. It's like,
well, we have to do Chucky versus Megan too. We didn't go into that.
Yeah, Chucky versus Megan is perfect.
You're stealing my thunder
Megan.
over here.
I do think Chucky
lady.
would hate Megan. I don't think he'd work with her at all. He'd be like, get out.
But we've discussed quite a bit on this show and offline about where do the remakes and the reboots fit into this? Do we continue the movies for the Grimoire and just cover the remakes? Do we make a month of remakes? Do we do a Grimoire Lost Pages that is the remakes? Like, and I think that they have to be.
I already know what the answer is.
Separate.
We've talked about it, and I've already told you what we're doing because I'm like, this is the only way I want to do it. Which is we wait until we go through all of the Grimoire of all of our favorite monsters, Freddy, Mike, Jason, and Michael Myers, or I said Michael Myers,
Chucky.
Charles Lee Ray, and then we just do 1 month of all the remakes because they all have one. So we just put it into 1 month, and whether that be a proper Grimoire episode, whether that be a Lost Pages episode, or whether that be just like a, like the Grimm Files, and it's like it's like in a computer folder or something, like
I like that. I like that.
You like the Grimm Files?
Listen, Steve, you've been trying to turn this lighthearted, hey, did you see this one, into, hey, how about this hell horror?
Hey, are you scared yet?
Are you scared yet, brother? So, I mean, it's not too far off to just have a month where we just decide to do that. So, I'm with you. I'm with you either way. To the end. Friends till the end, as they say.
Yeah.
Also, like it'd be like a comparison too of just like, hey, what feels like it was added, maybe what was lost a bit. And I think a lot of them generally it's like what's lost.
I mean, I'll say that not to like totally derail the conversation because we're kind of like getting to the end of the movie, but in terms of those remakes, the Jason remake is the best one. It is the best one, and it holds up, and it holds up as though it could exist in the other franchise as its own thing. Like it's completely separate. It doesn't have any sort of canonical ties, but it feels like it still is part of it. Like you don't really have to change much in order to squeeze that in there as like it's an actual sequel. Whereas the Freddy Krueger one it really leans into the aspects of Freddy Krueger that I think a lot of people try to forget because they're like, not great, man. We're kind of living in a new world where we don't want to like perpetuate that type of trauma as something that is like entertainment, because the Freddy Kruegers are not heady. They're not meant to make you think about childhood trauma in the way that I think people can associate with. And then the Chucky movie is just too different. It doesn't really, it's trying to go in a new direction. It's like, what if it's technology instead of a fun psychopath? Like I like fun psychopath better. And then the Michael Myers, those Rob Zombie movies, they're just too hateful. I've said this many times before.
You have.
I don't hate Rob Zombie. I don't hate his movies, and I don't hate him as a director. And I think he's like a kind of a really good filmmaker, and he's a really fun, smart guy, and like in certain aspects. But he made them feel too full of hatred and violence.
Like maybe losing some of the campiness a bit, especially.
It's not even.
That was kind of my initial problem with this, is it didn't feel like it was campy until he pulled the plasticine off of his face.
I loved that she pulled the first pieces and then he finished with his eye. Like I thought that was very cool to just be like, this is it. The mask is off. I'm in just like full kill mode now.
Yeah.
I just want to sideload this idea from Tim, what he's saying here about Chucky commands an army of toys. Hey, what about a movie that's Chucky versus the movie Toys starring Robin Williams?
All these toys are trying to attack me. I mean, he does kind of make an army of Chuckies. Like, not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen the TV show, but he basically makes an army of Chuckies at one point.
Yeah, and isn't the next movie
and they're all Charles Lee Ray being like, "Whoa, what the heck is going on over here?"
I feel like I don't know, would he love it? Do you want a bajillion Chuckies, or are you just like, I'm one of a kind?
I'm almost like one
Chucky, but
that is actually a line probably from the show. Like all the other Chuckies probably get killed, and then he's like, "You can't kill me. I'm one of a kind, made in Taiwan."
Steve, are you saying you don't drag in the ditches and burn with the witches and slam in the back of your Dragula?
I slam in the back of my Dragula all day and all night, every day and every night. I like that. I like
Chucky's army.
I like the Evil Dead, the Deadites. There is a really good comic. I think I talked about it briefly before, where it's Freddy versus Jason versus Ash from the Evil Dead, and the Deadites are all kind of mixed in with that. And it's a really good sort of like the Deadite verse being sort of a dimension full of demons that can just come in and possess people is like a really fun thing. And I would love if Charles Lee Ray's soul got sucked into the Deadite realm, and he's like, "Oh God, what the hell's going on?" And then they like turn him into a Deadite, and then he goes back into Chucky, and he's even crazier now.
versus
That would be
Hellraiser, and he's like, "We have such sights to show you."
Save
great,
your
too.
tears. It's a waste of good suffering.
I love it. I love Hellraiser.
Ding,
I'm on
ding,
Hellraiser
ding.
6 this week. Watch on my watch through of Hellraiser for the first time. So during all of this, I'm going to see the 6 and possibly the worst. They're getting bad. We get the little bit of the stab to the face, the stab to the eye that we saw. I was like, are these people related to Chucky in some way? They may or may not be, as it goes. I thought for a second that somehow these were like the family at the end. Jennifer Tilly has like a family at the end of the last one, but that timeline doesn't make sense unless there's a massive time jump. So never mind that.
I thought that Charles, because I was also sitting, obviously with everything they were like kind of like giving us tiny little hints about. I was like, clearly there's a tie here. And then I was thinking that maybe Charles killed the dad because they were talking about the dad dying and stuff. I'm like, oh, maybe that was like a murder he did. I'm like, oh, that seems like a little far-fetched to be like, I must kill the rest of the family now. But yeah,
But that's
like
exactly what happened. Yeah. Which is like, that's where I start to be like, oh, they're kind of mucking up what I like about Charles Lee Ray and the fact that like I just like killing. Like that's what, like I just love killing people. That's what I love doing. But his obsession then becomes like, I need to get out of this body. I need to get into a body that I can move around and age and, live and not be a doll anymore.
But in this movie, that's like not his primary focus. He wants to like
his primary focus is to kill them.
His family.
Well, because
he hides. Yeah, he hides Alice in like a cupboard for most of the movie.
He's not too concerned about killing her because he probably is thinking like there's probably a side version or like another alternative telling of this movie where it's more from the perspective of Chucky and Alice,
like a traditional,
where he's like, okay, Alice, later on we'll play hide the soul, and I swear it's the best game you'll ever play. And that's what eventually that's what happens, right? Like the ending of this movie implies that he did switch his soul into her body, but then
it doesn't really carry forward to the next one.
The post credit, just kind of completely stumps over. Like, so did Alice just be like, actually, I don't want to play this anymore?
We get the fully CGI Chucky walking down the stairs after he murders Barb. We get the weird thing where during Barb getting killed, Nika climbs these stairs for so long, inexplicably has her wheelchair at the top of the stairs. Did I miss her also pulling the wheelchair up the stairs?
I think she went to a closet. She went to a closet to grab the next one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because there's one in the attic. It looks like there was one on this floor, and then she left the one downstairs because she ended up going to the one that's in the.
I have an aunt in my family she's paraplegic, and like she has multiple wheelchairs in her house, and she doesn't live in a manor. she lives in a regular house. Yeah.
There was a funny part early in the movie where it's like she's complimented on her wheelchair, but you can't see it. But then you do see the wheelchair, and it is pretty rad. Like it's like all metal. Can't be comfortable, but like aesthetically, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I do have the moment during all of this too written down where the dad, it keeps cutting to the dad, and he's got ear plugs in, so he can't hear any of this. And he finally wakes up at this point. The daughter's missing. Nika's spent more time on the stairs in the last 10 minutes than Chucky is in this movie. And then we finally get to the point where Nika makes it to a garage and Chucky's just in a car. And he's like, carbon monoxide poisoning murder. Let's do that. I thought that was so funny.
That doesn't seem like his style either, like
right? Like
kind of look like a clean murder.
Also so peaceful. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, the animatronic that they use for Chucky in this scene is really interesting because every time that she goes in front of the car, Chucky inside the car is like moving back and forth in this really interesting way. So, props to.
Might have been one of the. So they said that like most of the time sorry, my brain is like skipping all over the place here. I had said earlier that like Brad Dourif didn't realize his daughter was going to be in this movie, until well after he'd already recorded all of his dialogue for this movie. Like he had gone through whatever weeks, months, or whatever it is recording, and then found out later, oh, my daughter got the role. That's this is crazy. This is insane. And he was like, I'm kind of glad that I did all that before, because I don't know if my like thought process would have been different as an actor, and like choices that I would have made in terms of like the speeches talking to my daughter would maybe have not been the same. But they also pre-programmed everything into the head of the doll so that they could, like, before they even shot, they could just have exactly what Brad Dourif was saying matched up perfectly to like his vocals, which is like drastically different from the 80s and stuff, right? Where they had to like have a guy on set like, okay,
like the Ninja Turtle style, like the Jim
Yeah.
Henson style,
which is a really cool sort of like interesting thing to think about, that, you know, this doll was on set and they probably had Brad Dourif's lines programmed into the doll so that when it's talking, it was probably actually like his voice was probably being projected as they were acting to it, which is pretty cool. But one of the other things that they would do is they would almost have like a Muppet style where it was just someone's head, and like what you're talking about, Jason, in the car, like I can fully imagine they probably just gutted the car and had somebody like moving it around with their arm, which does also add a lot, right? Like you can tell when those moments are happening, but there's a certain level of like nostalgia that's attached to that type of puppeteering where it is a hand, and you understand that it's a Bobby Weird hand. And you're kind of like, I like that. This makes me feel good. It gives me that like Kermit the Frog vibe, or like the Dark Crystal or something, you know.
I watched the movie The Guyver the other day, and there's this scene where like an alien's mouth opens and a hand, like a thing comes out, and it's clearly a hand in a glove, and I was like, that's amazing. Like it's so good when you see practical effects that are so clearly practical. Like it's such a relief. You know, I love the MCU. I love big CGI action nonsense movies, but I love practical effects so fucking much. And the amount of practical effects they do end up using in this movie is great.
Once you get to like a point where you're like willing to do it, Jason, I don't know. I implore you to watch some of these sort of like behind the scenes things that I've been like filling my brain with for years, because there are tons of stuff that you don't even really consider as a special effect until you understand like just how special it is and how much it affected the movie itself, you know. Like there's like a shot in the first Alien movie where there's just like the face hugger is inside the egg before it's opened, before it's like breached, and it's just like this weird sort of shot of it like doing like, and they're like, yeah, that's just like hands in a glove. But when you watch the movie, it looks like a weird crab, and you're like, oh, did they put a crab in there? And it's like, no, it's just some guy going like this with his fingers.
Even you doing it right, I was like captivated.
You're captivated by my bony fingers. Yeah. Okay.
He's getting mouthed by a face hugger. They do actually foreshadow something that has payoff early in the movie. They talk about how people with a specific type of paraplegic, she's got heart issues from it. And during this whole sequence of the carbon monoxide thing, Ian busts in and stops he dissipates the carbon monoxide, but she starts having like a medical issue. And
I think she just is having a heart attack is what it is.
Like literally having a heart attack. Yeah. And it sucks so much because he thinks she's like holding the axe, I think, or the axe is in play because there's an axe during this sequence. And he thinks that she's done all of the murders because it's the only thing that makes any sense to his brain. And she passes out and comes to with, Chucky's still in the room while he's like lording over her about like, you did this, I'm going to turn you in, or, so first he's like, I'm going to let you die from your heart attack, because she pulls out an adrenaline pen. Like, you have to use this on me. Yeah. And he's like, nope.
Under the breastbone. And he just sits there. And I'm like, he's not going to do it. I'm like, he has to do it. Like, even if she's done all this stuff, like, you can't just let her, like, I don't know.
I don't have a child. I do have people that I care about very deeply in my life. I don't know how I would feel if somebody who I thought had murdered both of those people in my life was asking me to help save their life.
It's crazy that you would go to her though. Like I wouldn't even be like the doll. I'd be like, there's a serial killer in our house. Like there's somebody else that's in here doing this to us.
But
That's
I
how I
mean,
felt about it
Yeah.
too.
yeah, and you know what? They don't really do enough in the movie to make it seem like he would suspect her as a psychotic killer. And the fact that she is paraplegic would make it very hard logically to leap to the conclusion that she was able to somehow do this.
I think biggest one is the wife died at the top of the stairs of the attic, which literally doesn't have access via the. I guess she could have moved herself up the stairs, but
when he finds her, she's at the bottom because she falls out of the attic.
Oh yeah, squished eyeball.
Yeah. I don't know how I would feel. What I would probably, I mean, but I also wouldn't feel as threatened. But maybe I don't. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. I also don't think that I would be able to like let anyone die. I don't know.
That's the biggest, because what if they didn't do it? Then you just sit there being like, oh my God, I could have done something.
I even mean like, even if they did do it, I would still be like, you know, you did this, but I'm going to let you live and face the justice system.
And that is what he does. You know what she comes to, she's tied up. He's there.
And he's very, well, that's the thing. He's very much like, I'm going to prove to you that you did all of this, because I don't know if you know this. There's a nanny cam inside the doll. And the second he starts watching the footage, he's horrified to see that. And I wrote down too, like, obviously it's moving on its own, because how does this doll, even if Alice is carrying this doll around to like show all this, which would be a way to explain it away, it very quickly goes to the Chucky walking up to him sleeping on the couch and looking at him, and then you see his little hands come up and then you see him murder, you know. So he realizes
the classic, like when he's running into the room and you're like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's right now.
Except he's like not looking behind him.
He's not quite clicking.
You see Chucky coming from behind him, and it literally says in huge yellow letters like live feed.
Yeah.
Live feed. What the hell? Turn around, you fool. He eventually does turn around, but way too late, and then he gets like bulldozed by the wheelchair to the point that he does like
Chucky
a backflip and like, lands on his head.
It was like cartoon-like. It was nice.
Yeah, this is when the movie gets real Chucky.
Yes,
it's like it goes from. I mean, I think as soon as he peels away the plastic on his face, it really kind of goes from like, this isn't doing much for me to like, oh, okay, now we're in Chucky world now. This is Chucky land. This is good guy land, and I'm liking it.
So he gets knocked over. Chucky axes the fucking just bottom half of his face off, which was a good effect too.
I liked it too.
They held on it for a minute too to really like, so you know, he dies pretty fast. It would have been a little bit extra horrifying if he like was like still alive a little
trying
bit.
To talk like his tongue is like
Stop it.
But that's not fun. Chucky's more known for fun, and more the kills in this movie are more fun. Even the stab to the eye is like fun.
That's what I mean to say about like the
fun.
The Rob Zombie take on kills, right? Like where like people don't die. It's like when he was thinking about the movie, he's like, people don't die immediately when they get stabbed. They'll be like writhing around and dying, but they're not dead immediately. Where I'm like, if Rob Zombie directed this sequence, the guy would get his bottom jaw hacked off, and he would stand up and he'd be trying to talk, and his tongue would be moving around and be like, wah, wah, and you'd be like, this is fucked up. I don't like this.
He'd probably walk crawl to the bathroom and like try and look at himself in the mirror and like slip on the sink with the blood and then like fall with half his face in. Yeah, I try. Yes.
Yeah.
I watched too many Rob Zombie movies too little. So
I just watched RoboCop too little, and it messed me up for years and years. And you're like, well, if you watch Rob Zombie when you're too young, you'll be fine.
Totally fine.
This is that segment where we get the big flashback. Well, first she's trying to escape. Chucky chops her in the leg. Chucky gets decapitated because she just lives like, fuck you, pulls his head off, which I thought was funny. But she goes to escape and falls off the balcony. He pushes her through you know,
I do want
pushes
to
her
talk about
with.
the head ripping off for a second.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah,
It kind of goes against the rules of Chucky, which I'm kind of like, one of the good things about Chucky usually is that they do have established rules. And it seems like in this moment, they just wanted to have a fun gag of him putting his head back on, which I can appreciate. But in every other Chucky, we've established that, like, if you chop his head off, he's pretty much fucking dead. If you blow him up, he's dead. Like, there's all these, in this one, it's like, he's even got like one of those things to like
The
stick
doll,
the head.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like it's like a
like the
it's like a real doll
hole,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, the peg hole. Yeah. That's what they called me in high school.
Hey,
I really hated the fact that it always bothers me, and I understand why they do it in movies, like especially scary movies, but finish the job.
Yeah,
Don't just think like this is somehow going to do it and you're safe and you turn your back on this
turning your
person.
back is the real
Oh.
one.
here I've got something for you guys. This Chucky doll, okay, is the movie set Chucky doll, and not the original Chucky doll. It's the movie set Chucky doll, and that's why its head can pop off. It's gonna
Well,
come here.
I
We'll
love this, Jason. Let me start off. I love the theory. I love where your mind's at, but the original Chucky doll is not the original Chucky doll ever.
yeah, because it gets blown to smithereens in the
He gets
Child's Play
burnt.
3,
He gets
right?
burnt into cinders in the first one. In the second one, he gets melted down into a blob, and then at the end of the third one, he gets hacked into a million pieces in a giant fan in a fun house. And then after that, he's in pieces and he gets sewn together by Tiffany, and then he's like a Frankenstein for the rest up until, I presume, this. So but you're also right that I don't think I've seen him get his head cut off after him being stitched together like a Frankenstein. So maybe it can happen, maybe it can.
It's popped off too, and the body still has full autonomy, and the head still be like, get my head back.
It
on
is
my
also
body.
a fun gag. Like,
Yeah,
I don't hate the gag, it's kind of good.
I thought it was a fun little sequence because she's like learning all this stuff about her past while fucking he's just like trying to put his head back on. I can put my arm back on, you can't, so play safe. Yes, but we do have the sequence
I come from
where
Planet Danger, isn't that? I was just like, I live on Planet Danger.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I don't live on Planet Danger, even though it
Me
seems
too.
like every day I go through my
Just
life and I'm like,
flipping
is this
through-
Planet Danger? I think we might be on Planet Danger.
What if it's like Greenland and Iceland, where like Planet Danger is actually really safe?
Planet Murder is actually
Oh.
no wait, Planet Murder, Planet Danger's safe and Planet Safe is death.
Planet Utopia is actually just like the Purge every day, and they're like Utopia.
We live in Planet Utopia, let me tell you that.
I've been trying to
That's
move
reality.
to Planet Fruitopia.
It's opposite world though. It'd just be vegetables. That's a dumb
No,
joke.
Planet
I'm
Fruitopia
sorry.
is just a gay paradise. That's where I want to live.
I think Mykonos.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, Mykonos is Fruitopia. Can't say that, Jason. The thing that I love here is when she gets thrown off the balcony and we think that she's dead.
Yeah.
I realize that it's her leg bleeding out because she's got that huge open wound in her legs, and that's where all that blood's coming from. I also realized that like I thought she was gonna land on her back, and like you can't double break your back, so that's how she was gonna survive. But what ends up happening here
Now
is
she's a quadriplegic. Oh no.
now what's interesting about this is I thought Chucky, with 20 minutes left in the movie, completed the whole house. This is the point when I was like, okay, it's insane asylum. I guess that's where we're going.
No, you were still convinced that you were watching a movie that you weren't
A little
watching.
bit.
Yeah. Okay.
That's next
Little bit.
grimoire.
Yeah, that's the spring grimoire.
The Spring War. I mean, I do find I still think it's very funny that you up into this point still thought that maybe there was going to be a whole other storyline inside of
There's
a insane asylum.
20 minutes left in the movie when I think that
Did you not know there was another movie after this?
I did, but I didn't know. I wasn't thinking. I
Right,
wasn't
all right.
using logical thought. I was sure. Sometimes I'm just sure, and you're like,
Yes.
actually, Jason, no.
You're wrong.
It happened on this very episode several times. It's kind of my charm.
It's my charm. My charm is being certain when I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay, so when she was falling off, that was another part that I was like, yeah, she's not going to get hurt, I don't think, unless she lands in a horrible way. And then, but I also know, like, I haven't seen this in a long time. So I was like, it's going to be, and there's still 20 minutes left. I remember looking at the clock and there's still 20 minutes left of this. What the heck's going to happen after? She's the only one left. I mean, I'm kind of glad for her because the last segment is where the movie explains itself to you, even though I didn't particularly like the explanation. I don't know how you guys feel, but like, I like Chucky a lot. He's my favorite of the Grimoire murderers that we do every year. And, I have like an idea of him in my head and I have a pretty good impression of him. I like Chucky. He's a fun character. And as soon as you take a fun character and you introduce something that's a little bit too kind of nasty, where you're like, oh, I don't like that anymore. Like, I just like that he's supposed to be an unhinged maniac. I don't want him to be someone who's like an incel, being like, I don't have a wife or kid, so I'm gonna steal a wife and a kid.
Yeah, that's this whole.
It was odd.
This whole sequence.
It's also like I would have preferred if it was like, oh, he tried to kill them all, but was only able to get the dad, and like they kind of got away or something. Like, I don't know. That part was just kind of like, why? How did you get this woman in your basement?
But I've also never thought of him as somebody who's like enjoys killing children particularly. It's like he doesn't go out of his way to be like, I'm gonna go kill a kid today.
He doesn't really harm the kids, right? Like he's trying to bring everyone around them. But
usually he kills the people who he finds to. It's almost like a Hannibal Lecter level where like if somebody just pisses him off slightly, he's like, all right, you're fucked. I'm gonna kill you.
He's gonna keep the kids intact too because he wants to transfer his consciousness and his soul into the children, and that's why he usually.
Yeah. But I think he also them. He befriends them, but then he also like he learns about them and he becomes a part of their life, but not in a way that is like weird and gross like Freddy Krueger. It's more like he's just like, listen, I got some things that you need to learn, and I got some things that I need to learn, and maybe we can learn together.
He's a psycho. He's not a monster.
Exactly.
Well, the other three monsters in the Grimoire like are all killing teenagers because they have like
unresolved childhood issues.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it be, all of I used to do terrible things to kids in the horrible way and all the parents came together so I have to like wipe their families off the face of the earth, or Jason is very much like, a mutant kid who wasn't having any fun and I died because they were all having sex.
He's not a mutant. He was just, different.
He's different. And Michael Myers is very much like, I love my siblings so much that I'm going to kill them for stepping on my property.
I think that Michael Myers is supposed to be the most unknowable. Like you can never understand what he is. Whereas
he just is vengeance. He just the vengeance is.
No, you're thinking of Batman. He is vengeance.
Justice.
But Michael Myers is supposed to be the embodiment of evil, right? Like that's what Dr. Loomis's entire thing is. Like, he's evil. We have to kill evil tonight. And like, he's supposed to be this sort of representation of evil within a town that you would think would grow over 40 years or whatever, but it somehow shrinks down.
I swear to God, in the sixth movie we're about to watch, they're all going to be like, it's Halloween. And somebody's going to be like, isn't Michael Myers supposed to come back? And they're like,
that was last year. This year it's going to be different.
Yeah, it's not. Spoilers. Let me just get through this part because we sort of hinted on it. Basically, this is a question I had for you guys actually. Did he knock up Sarah and he is the mother of the church? He just is like, I love you. You're pregnant. That's going to be our family.
I kind of would have liked a world. It would have made more sense to me, and it would have been kind of more satisfying if there was a weird thing where Sarah was having an affair with a serial killer behind the back of her husband, and he didn't know about it, and he would have wanted the baby because he's like,
we need a legacy. I've been killing people for years. We're gonna raise a little psycho just like me.
Nika's even a redhead, that's why I thought
She
Also,
also
actually, his daughter.
She also is his actual daughter in
Yeah.
real
Actual
life.
daughter.
But
So I thought that there was something there for that.
It is just weird that he's just like, he saw her at a picnic, and then
was
he's like,
I
that
think
one's
maybe
mine.
that one.
Like
But
a friend of the family is the vibe that I got. Like, oh, this is my
Yeah.
friend Charles Lee Ray, and the dad is like, "Hi there, you're a
Also,
great
doesn't-
man, clearly."
Doesn't look like anybody else, not dressed like anyone else, not hair like anybody else. He just
Yeah.
very much stands out.
Hey, how's everybody doing? So I thought it was a Hawaiian themed party. Like, oh no,
I want to
Charles.
know. I'd like to talk to Don Mancini about what he meant by this, what he meant by all of this, or if it's literally just we take it at face value.
I think that he probably wanted to do something a little bit more with it because he's not an uncreative person and he's not
No.
somebody that would just do something like this. And it feels like he probably wanted to do something more along the lines of what we were saying, whereas like he actually impregnated that woman and that is his child.
Right.
But in the flashback thing, like the black and white with the yellow and everything is kind of visually interesting, but it's not doing anything to make me think that the movie is deeper. Because I'm like, what is it supposed to represent? But I did sort of like it when it played into the night that he died was the same night that he left this woman. But at the same time, I didn't like it that much. I like the mystery. Also, there was a getaway driver. I don't know if you've seen the first one. He's like, oh God, my getaway driver's over there. Like, why did he have a getaway driver to get away from the pregnant woman did he have a guy that he was just paying to drive him around? I don't know.
He was just waiting outside.
There's too many logical loopholes that I gotta, or not loopholes, but hoops that I gotta jump through.
But this is a good question from World Mind. Like, what happened to the seed of Chucky kids that are like,
that's answered in the show.
Okay.
Yeah. Because remember they turned into real children at the end.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they are Chucky's kids, but instead of turning into that weird, freaky doll kid, there's also kids that are real human beings.
They get Ade Due Dembalid into real children. Yeah.
Charles
the one guy gets turned into two children.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And one is good and one is evil, which is what that movie is kind of about. Charles Lee Ray has the voodoo stuff in the background when he's got that weird like basement flower room with Sarah as pregnant and young. He stabs her in the womb.
Got some vaguely racist artifact behind him, and you're like, oh God.
When I saw this scene and I realized there was all the voodoo stuff in the background, it reminded me of I think the third movie. You talked at length about how the rules for the voodoo stuff kind of comes and goes as they decide to have it be prominent. And it seems pretty prominent in this because there's a loop. There's a loop between this and the first movie, they show a scene directly from the first movie to imply that he was doing this with Sarah and he leaves and he ends up in the factory that makes the toys that Chucky was at. And he knew already about saying the voodoo line because I guess he stops at
he definitely knows
Sean's place on the way to the factory. Like it's insane.
It's explained in the second movie that before he died, he had like these sort of like voodoo not connections, but like people who understood voodoo and how to do it. And like he didn't necessarily believe it, but he had the medallion. And he used it, and it obviously turned him into a little murder doll. So he's like,
murder freak.
I didn't know it was going to actually work. What the hell he did? Oh my God.
And
that's brought up a bunch. I can hear him saying, I didn't know it was going to work.
Yeah. And so he obviously like he believed in it beforehand, but he didn't know it was going to work. This scene implies that he like is a voodoo worshiping like maniac or whatever. He's like, I believe in voodoo magic and that's all I believe in. You can take your Jesus Christ and shove it up your ass. Whereas like in this, again, I said earlier, I don't really like this representation, and it isn't solidified in the way that it is in the show and beyond this. So like, I think they were swinging for something here, but like it didn't work for me. I don't know, maybe it works for somebody else, but
it feels like there should be more. Like it feels like there should have been a bit more there. It kind of felt a little
That's like the weird thing.
They
is
spent
that-
a lot of time in this movie at the beginning making it feel like it was supposed to be like a reboot, like
the
thing.
thing that's like weird about it is that it's relying on previous knowledge. This sequence is relying on previous knowledge, but also adding a bunch of stuff that wasn't there previously. So you're like, I know what's going on. Someone else who's never seen Chucky will have no fucking clue what's going on. And then the people that do know what's going on are also like, wait, he was this deep into voodoo?
Yeah.
Like he has a whole voodoo basement? I didn't know. And like I like the version of Charles Lee Ray where he doesn't necessarily believe in the voodoo until it actually works. And he's like, holy shit, I'm now trapped in a doll. And I like the version of him where he just strangled people and murdered people because he really, really liked doing it, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't become obsessed with a family just because he saw a pregnant woman.
Well, it's revealed here that the reason why Nika's in a wheelchair is because he stabs her in the stomach.
Yeah.
That's what, gave her the paraplegic ness.
He stabs the pregnant lady, and I guess he stabs the baby at the same time. Like,
yeah,
that's the implication.
that's how I got it. He ends up in the original Chucky that night. He's the last one standing, so to speak. He also mentions all of the families that he's been with up to this point: the Barclays, the Kincaids, and the Tillys, because literally Jennifer Tilly becomes the Jennifer Tilly doll in
they
right?
do a Dembala Tiffany into Jennifer Tilly. So Jennifer Tiffany voiced by
Tiffany,
Tiffany, who
which
was
is
a character
amazing.
played by Jennifer Tilly, goes into a doll that becomes Tiffany, and then the Tiffany doll goes into Jennifer Tilly, so she's just back to being a regular human being.
Meta Knight.
Oh
So
god,
then-
yeah. That is if there was a
Meta Knight.
Meta Knight war and we needed a general, it would be Jennifer Tilly. She would be our
As Tiffany,
general.
as Jennifer Tilly.
I was in every Chucky movie as myself and a doll at the same time. I know what meta is.
Not a great Jennifer Tilly. I can't really do it that well, but I'm sure someone else out there can.
Sorry, I'm
Tatiana,
just
can you
banging.
do
It's
it?
definitely not me. I can't do voices.
Damn it.
I'm just banning a spammer. Hold up.
Ban spam.
Ban.
So, yeah, I don't know how. I know I've already asked, but did this work for you guys? It didn't really work for me because it's adding too much, but it's also sort of depleting certain things that I think are important to Charles Lee Ray as a character. But I do like the idea that he murdered somebody and then he's cleaning, he's taking care of loose ends years later because he's trying to be a better guy. I need to be a better murderer. I need to make sure I don't leave any loose ends over here. I gotta go back and figure out who I forgot to kill and kill them all. I like that aspect.
I feel like it's almost like if you wanted to kill a bunch of people and then some got away, would that not just stick with you a bit? You just be like, I don't like that.
Especially if it's the person that kind of caused you to become
A doll.
the doll.
To be fair, though, he has been able to successfully kill way more people in a doll form than he ever did as a human. So
It's true,
was
but
it a boon?
it also seems that most of his kills are not long, well planned out kills. All of his successful kills are spontaneous, I found a yo-yo and I'm gonna strangle this guy with it right now. Okay, yeah. Got him, Chucky.
So, back in the reality outside of the flashback, Nika manages to get into the elevator and is escaping up. When it stops, he's chopping her fingers and he's like, that hurts, doesn't it? Because she's got a giant wound on her leg. I thought that was crazy. But I was also just let go. But I think what happened here is that she was goading him into stabbing.
She's holding it closed.
Oh, she's holding it closed.
If she lets go,
sorry,
then he'll just
gather
get
that.
in. Yeah.
Right. I thought she was goading him into chopping so she could grab the knife. But she does either way. She grabs the knife and
She manages for me.
She's
that's
grabbing the
one.
blade with her fingers.
She manages to get the blade away from him and stabs him in the back while he's on top of her, which was also pretty good. And then the last act of this movie, the last like 10 minutes, is like the police show up and he just sees all the fucking chaos. He thinks Nika did everything, and she is literally holding the fucking knife with blood all over it. And then I wrote off to the asylum, and that's that. But it's not, because Chucky is still alive, and so is the little girl, and he dem doobies himself into her, I guess. And then we get the post-credit scene, which is just like this interesting scene about a UPS guy dropping off a Chucky-sized doll box, and it's Andy, clearly, because we see the pictures around his house. And just as he's cutting his way out of the box, he gets a shotgun blast to the face. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about Andy's line? He says, "Play with this," as he's pointing a shotgun at him and shoots him in the head.
I mean, it's...
I do like that Chucky goes, "Wait, Andy! Like, don't shoot me over here.
Wait, hold on."
I'm just here to talk.
Yeah, I just want to have a chat. I like that. I don't really like the line "play with this." I was kind of thinking about it over the day, where I was like, what would be a better line? Like, is there a better line? I don't know.
Okay, something about like friend to the end.
That's what I was going to say.
Doll.
Yeah, like friends to the end, right? And then he and shoots him in the head, because that would signify it's the end or whatever, right? I thought that as well, yeah. And then
literally, you're saying the end.
The end,
John,
yeah. Exactly. And then you know what? That's the better line.
We nailed it, Stephen.
This is the end of Friends.
This is how Friends end. But I did get really excited when I first saw that, because I didn't know who he was. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then as soon as you see the pictures, you're like, oh my God, it's Andy. And then you start to realize, I think that's is this the actual guy that was Andy? And it is. It's the same actor.
He'd be so much older now, right? Like, even if
and it's not like he's like like I said before, he's not eating only ramen and drinking whiskey, and like he's not totally fucked up. He's just living a semi-normal life, and he looks, like he doesn't look like he's in rough shape. He looks like he's like a well-adjusted, normal 30-something-year-old man.
I'll tell you guys
just been waiting for a long time for
he's
Chucky
like, eventually he's gonna come for me, and I am prepared.
Yeah.
I messaged this guy today.
The actor who plays Andy?
Yeah, I shot him a little message. Alex Vincent is his name, and I shot him a message to say he's got on his Instagram, he's got a business account, so you have to select what you want to message him. He had two selections. It was either like, I have a business proposition, or I want to ask you a question. I clicked ask you a question, and I got an auto response that's just like, go to my Patreon if you want to hear podcast episodes or learn more. I do more than just do Chucky conventions. And I was like, oh fuck, I can't just
you were gonna ask him to be on the show? Well,
not necessarily tonight. I wanted to ask him if he would be on our podcast, because now I've entered this realm of I want to just reach out. I reached out to Jason Marsden. He didn't get back to me. I reached out to somebody else.
Maybe you need to burn bridges by saying these people.
No. I'm not burning any bridges.
Okay.
All these people are great. I would love to talk to them in the podcast format. But what I'm saying is he had a very business forward account, so I didn't get to talk to him, but I did learn a lot about him through looking at his stuff. And this guy is very active in the Chucky world. He had a picture of going to a convention and getting a bunch of cool gifts from his fans, and he gets all kinds of Chucky stuff.
They call them Chuck fuckers. That's what the
Chuck fuckers. What I sort of gleaned is that he might not want to talk about Chucky.
I can't imagine that I would want to if I was a 7-year-old when I made a movie, and
if you were in one of them later, and now
maybe. I mean, he was in 2 of them. He was in the first 2, and then he was also in the.
He's in 3 of them technically.
He's in this one and he's in the next one.
But I thought it'd be funny if I asked him to be on like Friday the 13th.
He's actually a pretty big part of the next one, and he's also in the show.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's living that Chucky lifestyle, and I support it because I love Chucky and I love the Chucky universe, and I'm glad that it's continuing.
Oh,
growing.
the other person I asked was last week, or for our Nick Cage episode that we did to pick the movies. I asked Wes Cage Coppola if he wanted to come talk about it with us or be on one of a Nick Cage episode. You know, he's taking some time off social media. Maybe he'll get back to us and be on an episode. But I just thought it'd be worth mentioning that I reached out to Alex.
You know, when
Vincent
I said like
today.
reach out to actors and stuff, I didn't know you were gonna go that deep. I thought you were
I'm
gonna
going.
I thought you were gonna sprinkle some breadcrumbs on the upper layers of like stuff we're gonna talk about. I know you're gonna go right for like Andy. Like you're like, hey Andy.
You miss every shot you don't take, you know?
Exactly.
true.
That's
That's
how
true.
I feel about it.
Well, that's cool. I mean, maybe he will, but I feel like if it's Chucky related, he's probably gonna be like, I do it, but you got to pay me like $2,000 or something to come on your podcast, which is I would do that too. If someone wanted me to come on, I'd be like 2 G's and I'll do it. Anyway, that's pretty cool, Jason. I didn't know you were doing that, but that's
I'm
kind of
trying.
cool. Yeah.
I'm doing my best. But that's pretty much it.
That's the
I'd
Curse
like
of Chuck.
That's the Curse of Chuck. It was a
Oh no, he's died.
The curse of
Yeah, we
based
should.
in our
I
film.
forgot if you say the Curse of Chucky 5 times throughout a 2-hour period, then it curses your internet connection.
Oh no.
And you
No,
pull
I-
your phone and it just says cannot connect.
I'm having this unique thing that is a situation where I keep getting we keep getting spam on our Twitch. And I'm trying to block them, and I realized I had my VPN open, and I'm wondering if that's a problem. It absolutely was. So now I'm blocking all these spammers, so you can fuck off so hard, spammers. Which is great because you know what?
I think Chucky relocated to India, and now he's operating like a VPN hijacking service.
I know he's trying to murder us from beyond the, or not even beyond the grave, from standing on top of the grave, being like, "Fuck you."
I don't know
What?
if you realize this, but you have an unpaid fee for a FedEx package. You need to pay it right now, or the FBI is going to come for you.
But let's get through. We've Tatiana. Thank you for being here for all this time. We went late as usual, but let's run it back and run it home, and let's talk about the Home Alone of it all.
Oh my goodness. Will someone else go first?
What do you think the Home
when
Alone of
is
it
the
all?
Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home
Defy
Alone? I really
tradition.
gotta
When's the
know.
Home Alone of
When
it all?
is
Throw it
the
to
Home
someone
Alone of
else.
it
What
all?
is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
The Home Alone of it all. It's simple. It's the idea that in the movie Home Alone, Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint to sort of set up all the traps for his victims. The further I get along with this, I realize those guys they're villains, but they are victims. But it sort of plays to the idea that everybody goes to watch Home Alone to see.
Kevin McAllister, a real Chucky, I'll tell you that much.
He's a real Chucky. Chucky versus Kevin McAllister would be a great
He's
film.
a budding jigsaw.
It's a budding jigsaw. But the idea is that that's what we came to see in that particular film. So I guess the easiest question is, in the movie Seed of Chucky. Yep, just rewound to 2 years. In the movie Curse of Chucky, what were you there to see? So Tatiana, you don't have to go first, but just being asked that question, are you able to answer it?
Yes. Thank you for recapping the Home Alone of it all. I would say, obviously, I think you go into Chucky to see egregious murders and honestly, just a really fun one-liner. which I feel like Curse of Chucky like gave a soft Home Alone of it all in this one.
I think that's
think you're
accurate. Because like I'll just give my Home Alone of it all right now. Chucky ! And if I was to dial down a little bit, I think it's when he pulls the plastic off his face to reveal his gore. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, it's the moment she peels that first little thing and you see the because like at first you don't really know what it is, and then once you do know what it is, for longtime Chucky fans, you're like, oh, he's still stitched together by Tiffany. He's not a new doll. Because like I thought he was a new doll the whole time, and I was like, can you tell me how he became a new doll, or is this your way of rebooting this? And you're rebooting it on a streaming service. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, they're not rebooting it on a streaming service. This is a sequel, and this is probably why it didn't get the theatrical release that it deserved, because nobody trusts Don Mancini, even though they should give him an MCU level crossover universe as they did to Kevin Feige. Let him create the horror verse or whatever, you know, like everybody always wanted to see Dracula versus the Wolfman and Dracula versus Frankenstein and Dracula versus Blackula. And, you know, like it all happened, but we never got to see Chucky versus Megan. I want to see Chucky versus Megan, and I want to see
Chucky versus Megan real bad.
But I also want Megan to be so smart.
Chucky.
I want to see Megan so smart that Chucky's like, she's too smart. I need to team up with somebody. What about those Scream guys? I know they suck.
Right back to the Scream guys.
Yeah. And then he finds what's his name? Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator, and he's like, you're the Reanimator guy, right?
Herbert West.
Yeah, Herbert West. Yeah, you can reanimate Jason Voorhees for me.
Oh man.
Am I writing gold right now?
Yeah, you could build an MCU around like all of the classic horror villains, which is exactly what you posited like an hour ago on the show. I love it.
The thing is that no one trusts them, and all these franchises have at some point in their existences made so much money that none of the companies that own them are willing to work together in any way. Even Freddy versus Jason like took forever to get going because the fact it's the same thing with Spider-Man and Sony and Marvel.
Spider-Man and Sony. That's exactly what I was going to say.
But like, it would be so fun, and it wouldn't be good. Like, I know it wouldn't. I'm not going to be like mind blown, but it would be so fun to just have Chucky interact. Like, imagine just like a weird scene where they're in like the shack from the Evil Dead, and like Ash is there, and it's like old fucking Bruce Campbell, and he's all beat up, but Jason Voorhees is sitting in a chair, and like Freddy Krueger is like scratching like a cat scratching post or something.
It would be the Wreck-It Ralph scene with all the villains.
Yeah, but they're there waiting for something bigger, like something scarier, right? And it's like they had to work together. And Ash is a good guy, but Ash is like, you guys don't even understand. And like, but you know, like he's there working with them. Like it would be.
This is a genius recommendation because Devon Sawa is on the Chucky TV show. He plays multiple characters. I'm pretty sure he's like the president at one point. So
yeah, I think he's played 3 different ones.
Yeah, Chucky Recruits Idle Hands is genius. Devon Sawa shows up on the Chucky TV show as his character from Idle Hands.
He just has an army of idle hands, like a bunch of jars that he throws, and like a hand comes out.
But it's the Thing from Addams Family?
No, the Thing from Addams Family and the idle hand meet, and it turns out they're both gay, and it's
like a love story.
Yeah,
we get a really graphic sex scene.
Yeah,
his hands.
One of them's going like this.
Yeah, they're literally yeah.
We start going like this, it gets weird.
Yeah,
perfect.
One of them is like putting moisturizing cream into the other one. Okay.
Like a warming lube.
Yeah. Well,
the Home Alone of it all.
Yeah. No, mine is also when he pulls the that's the best part.
It is now the time that we have to play the world's greatest game.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hello and welcome to the MPAA rating game. It is, of course, me, Jason R. Idlehands, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Stephen R. Idlehands. And I'm going to allow my co-host, Stephen R. Idlehands, to explain the very simple rules to this game.
Oh, the rules are simple, Jason R. Idlehands. My name is Steven, Jason R. Idlehands as well, and we are here to explain the rules. The rules are that there is a 3-digit number that one of us will guess by the end of this, or we won't, but 3 digits, starting with 000 all the way up to 999. So, Tatiana, I hope you understand that you need to guess a number between 000 and 999.
And I will compound that with the MPAA certificate rating is a rating that's given to every movie that's rated by the MPAA when they give it the rating like PG or R or whatever. None of that makes any sense or matters. I'm also going to give you the first 2 digits of the MPAA number. This week it's 48. So we're in the future. So we're going to go to Tatiana first.
484.
No. Jason, you fucked it up.
No,
484. Wait.
48, and then you give us so your number is 484 in addition to the 48 that I've given you.
Oh,
right?
I see. 3
The
digits
5-digit
after
number,
48. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. 5-digit number in total. I fucked it up. That's so much harder. I was like, wow, I'm gonna nail this.
483.
207.
307.
207.
207. It's higher. Steve.
800.
Lower. Tatiana.
666.
Steve. Lower.
3 4 4.
Tatiana, for your final guess, it's higher.
607.
Steve, for your final guess, it's lower.
541.
Incorrect. I'll give you both an opportunity to get one more guess. Price is Right rules. Can you guess the gross box office amount that this movie made? Tatiana, actually, you know what? You gotta say it at the same time. In 3, 2, 1.
3.8 million in the first month.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
All right, Tatiana got to it first. What's your final guess?
484. I've decided I'll stick with my first fake one. Do we not know if it's higher or lower?
Nope, you're all wrong. The number. sorry. The number this week was 48,353. I think Tatiana got super close within like a few. The budget was 5 million.
I think that,
gross...
Jason, we should change the rules that if someone is that close, you should say hot, 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 hot.
We need to have a sound effect or like fire
Yeah.
emojis.
Okay.
So that at least I'll reduce it by like 150 numbers or something.
No, that's when you guys were like real close and then you were like 600, I was like, oh fuck. Okay, I'll do a hot
Yeah.
from now on. Thank you. This is season 3. We're in a new period of discovery. The gross box office was 3.8 mil, budget 5 mil, MPAA 48,353. Hit it.
Oh, the MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
Also, it should be noted that there was no title drop at all in this movie. I think they might say Chucky, but they definitely don't say Curse of Chucky.
Well, what do you think about that?
Zardos.
Oh, he doesn't care.
Well, Zardos is here, but we are going to go into our final thoughts.
Nope, that's the wrong.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Okay. You know the rules. The guest always goes first. Tatiana, give us your final thoughts for the film Curse of Chucky. And if you have like a rating you'd like to give it, whether it be out of 5, out of 10, out of 7, or just completely nonsensical, please let us know now.
Okay, final thoughts. I did really, honestly, I think in the grand scheme of Chucky movies, I actually don't think I've seen the one after this, The Cult of Chucky. I should, because it seems like they're kind of a good pairing, or at least they really are connected. I did like it. I think obviously I wish there was a little bit more Chuckiness to it, but I feel like they tried something and there were parts I liked and parts that I thought could like go a little further. So I will give it 3 stabbies out of 5 stabbies.
If you haven't seen The Cult, you should watch The Cult, because it does have way more Chucky. Like the Chuck you love, you know, the Chuck you don't want to fuck with.
The
you
Chuck
fuck
that
with
makes
guy.
me a Chuck fucker, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I don't dislike this movie.
You gotta give her the hand clap.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that we do that.
Instead of hand claps, imagine stabs.
But I kind of like mostly agree with you. I think that the movie is a good attempt to bring Chucky back, and I don't consider it a failed attempt to bring Chucky back, because Chucky then went on to make another movie, even though it took another, I think, 5 or so years after this one.
4 years. It's 2017.
Yeah, and then the show, which the show is great. If you haven't watched the show, watch it. It is good. Chucky is one of those characters that is beyond his lore, where he as a character is almost more fun than the lore that he represents, and like the strange stuff that pops up throughout his story is supported almost mostly by himself and all his weird characters that he surrounds himself with. And I love the fact that they don't even really shy away from it being almost like a soap opera, where like, now Andy's back, and now like they're like everyone's coming back, like they're doing the MCU thing, but it's like it's more charming to me because it's so ridiculous and like subtle and strange, and you know, like he still just is like, yeah, you know, there weren't a lot of kills in this episode, so maybe I should just stab someone in the face for no reason at the end. Like, you know, like that's kind of how I felt about that show. But he also, you know, he does the same things, where he does have these weird sort of connections with, you know, kids that are estranged or bullied or whatever. He's like, you know, you shouldn't really let them talk to you that way. You could maybe just stab them to death. And you're like, okay, Chucky is a funny guy. This movie, however, I think for me, it is a little bit too safe. It did feel like a safe return, where they're like, we're going to make a movie that it brings us back to the horrors of Chucky and have it be a classic horror movie. But they leaned really hard into making it a classic horror movie in quotations, rather than really make you feel like it's another Chucky movie, which they did at the end. By the end of it, I'm like, okay, yes, this is all Chucky stuff now. But everything leading up to that just sort of felt like a safe kind of paint by numbers horror movie, which again is not a bad thing. I think it is a strength of this movie. I just would have loved if, you know, if it opened with him like in a plane, like in the package, being like, God damn, what am I gonna get here? Like if it was all from his
fixing one of the
perspective.
pieces.
Yeah, he's like
him,
yeah, like we went through it a bunch. Like if it was all that, like I would have loved that much more. But yeah, if I was to give it anything, I would say it is the version of Chucky where like the one arm is crawling its way out of the fan that murdered him at the end of the third Chucky movie, and it somehow like made its way to Hollywood and was like, can I get another film, please? And they said, all right, you can do it.
Clap. Him. I personally had a great time watching it, but it feels like a straight to TV movie overall, which I didn't know when I wrote this. I didn't realize that it was exactly.
Well, your intuition was correct. Yeah.
Yep. It has a couple of fun twists and makes sure to canonize everything, which is fantastic. The bad may outweigh the good, though, because the acting sometimes in this film is god awful. The CGI Chucky walking down the stairs is a disgrace to the practical background of these films, and we see lots of great practical effects in this film. Really fun ending that sets up a sequel, and by extension, the TV series. I think this is like the first episode, like a backdoor pilot almost for the TV show. What?
I was picturing.
What could you possibly?
I was picturing because you said like it really sets up a sequel. I pictured you like watching the movie and you're like, they never got to the insane asylum.
They never got to the insane asylum. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Excited to see how the movies and the TV show continues. If there's not an insane asylum in the next one,
you're like, wait a minute, is there a secret ninth Chucky that I never heard about?
I give this movie a 3.2 out of 5. And if I was to actually give this movie a rating, I would give it a you tried to fuck with the Chuck, but you don't fuck with the Chuck out of Andy.
Oh God. Andy definitely fucked with the Chuck at the end of the movie, and I'm really I know what happens in the next movie, but I'm really excited for both of you who I guess haven't seen the next one to see how, because like that wasn't just a fun post credit. Like he's in the next movie. Like Andy is part of it, and it's
listen. It's
cool.
October. I'll watch any scary movie or like type of I'll do good.
I'm telling you, watch Cult of Chucky, and you'll be like, "What the fuck is Don Mancini cooking in his meth lab?"
His Chuck lab.
Yeah.
Clap for me. Clap for me, peons. Give me the Chuck that I deserve. And now there's one last thing we have to do. It's my new favorite soundbite.
Oh, is this the plug?
Yeah.
I can't remember what I called it. What did I call it? Oh, there's so many recording. Oh, here it is.
All right, let me just plug this in right here and...
Weirdly, someone dies that way in this movie.
Yeah, see,
I feel like I think mine's better. Yeah,
that's what I said when we were talking about it at that moment.
Just play your plug on top of it.
Yeah.
But Tatiana, do you have anything you want to plug? If not, do you have a message for the world?
Oh gosh, nothing to plug. Happy Halloween and spooky month.
That's perfect. I can get down with that. Thank you for coming on tonight. You're, of course, always welcome back whenever you'd like to come on. I will probably be giving you a list of movies in the very near future for you to choose from. And thank you once again. Let's give Tatiana another round of applause. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Steve, what do you got? What do you got cooking? What's on the back burner this week?
What you got cooking in the corner over there? I have a bunch of stuff. Everything that I talk about every week. Darth Theorist. We're slowly taking over a Star Wars corner of the universe that I didn't think that we could, which is really cool. And I appreciate everybody who watches that, and I recommend watching it all the time. I've also got a couple of new ones, but I don't know if I should mention them yet. So maybe I'll keep it until next week. But true crime stories, I'm still doing that as well, and that one is probably the biggest. Check it out. Tell them you like the voiceover. If you go in there and you watch a video and you hear me being like, the man murdered his entire family with one bullet. You're like, what? One bullet? That's crazy.
The movie Wanted.
You should write, yeah, you should write in the comments, I really like the voice actor, because that's me. And we're almost coming up on the release of the game that I'm working, so I'll talk more about that once it's out. And also the cartoon show is getting ready to drop as well, so that'll be kind of cool. So keep tuning in every time to hear me talk about how I might tell you something more later.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. First and foremost, I'd like to promote this show. Hey, did you see this one? You can find us live on Twitch and YouTube each and every week at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can find us the next day. We put these episodes up on demand on YouTube and in audio format, usually on the Friday after the Thursday. I would also like to give a shout out to the fact that it is October. So this is one of our cornerstone trademark months that we do, the Grimoire of Familiar Killers. I'd also like to shout out the fact that we are running a tournament right now on social media to determine what movies we actually cover for November. They're Nick Cage themed movies, Nick Cage starred movies. The month is called Nickvember, Trapped in the Cage. And if you go to our social media, pretty much at Hey Did You See This One on all social media, you can find the polls there. You can vote in a tournament that we've created. There's an episode that we did that you can go back and watch where we selected these movies where a bunch of friends came through and we chatted about Nick Cage, but we're gonna go all out for that. You can find me at Super Kicked Wrestling as the announcer at the end of the month on the 26th, 25th, and 26th, and then the 31st. We're doing 3 nights of zombie wrestling this year. I'll be at those. I'm also, Steve, I wasn't going to tell you that I'm going to do this, but tomorrow I'm going to be officially opening the shop. That's why I wore this sweater tonight. I'm gonna put the Redbubble.
I have to draw that Twinkerbell picture. Then I guess I haven't.
You gotta get the Twinkerbell picture out there, but I'm gonna drop the Redbubble that is created, but I'm gonna put it on social media. So if you want to buy swag for our show, you can get mugs and T-shirts and sweaters and aprons and whatever the fuck. Tomorrow I'm gonna spend some time and pare that down to like a few items, but I'm gonna officially open the Redbubble shop tomorrow just to go in line with all these things that we're doing right now. So if you want to get some swag, that'll be available. And that's pretty much it. Shout out to White Bat Audio, who always use his music for our pre-show and during different segments sometimes. But I guess with that, I'll do the outro as always, but there's just really one question that needs to be asked each and every week. And Tatiana, I think that you're able to ask that question for us, I think.
I remembered this time. Hey, did you see this one?
I don't get it. They should be here by now.
What are you gonna do?
Well, that's our show. Steve, do you have anything funny that you want to say?
Oh,
Tatiana, do you have anything funny that you want to say?
I need Steven to say something in a Chucky voice.
in a Chucky voice.
Ade due Dambala. Give me the power, I beg of you.
And then what happened?
He is Sky. He is Father. He is Dambala.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.